All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Transit Committee meeting. Before we go to our formal portion of the meeting, we have a presentation today. Avant de passer à l'ordre du jour de la séance
Before
d'aujourd'hui,
getting to our agenda today, I wish to take a few minutes to emphasize the excellence in safety at OC Transpo.
OC Transpo held their annual TransSecure Safe Driving and Safety Awards ceremony, where staff were honored for their commitment to safety. I was very honored to attend. Vice Chair Desroches was there. The mayor was there as well. And we just heard story after story of safety and customer service excellence. Some of the operators were recognized for not only years, but decades of safe driving records. And we had operators and other staff and special constables who were recognized for compassion and care and just attention to people in Ottawa. They're out at all hours of the day, and it's incredible the circumstances they run into. We have three individuals here with us today who were recognized for the TransSecure Call of the Year, Safe Driving Awards, and the Chief Safety Officer Award. And there are three people among dozens and dozens of stories. This is really the tip of the iceberg of the excellence that we recognize at the event and beyond. So I'd now like to invite OC Transpo General Manager Rick Leary to lead us in that presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour. You know, over the past few weeks, I've had the opportunity to listen and observe the many activities and happenings at OC Transpo. One aspect that has left an impression on me is this organization's commitment to safety. All across the transit agency, staff are teaming up to ensure their own safety, their colleagues' safety, and the safety of the community at large. Now, the TransSecure Safe Driving and Safety Award are tremendous opportunities to showcase the bravery, care, and commitment to safety shown by our staff. Their stories really are nothing short of inspiring. Before we begin today's meeting, what I'd like to do is take an opportunity to recognize this year's recipients and to congratulate them again for their skills, compassion, and excellence. Now, unfortunately, I heard the chair mention being there. I wasn't able to be there this year for the awards, but it is my honor to be standing here today with some of these recipients of the awards. And I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about each one of them. I'm going to start with Operator Yashir. If you could step forward, please. Yasha. Operator Yashir is this year's recipient of the TransSecure Call of the Year Award, which recognizes excellent community watch actions. Operator Yasha has a strong compassion for serving the community, which he demonstrated in September evening while driving in the city south end when he encountered a man lying on the road. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, Operator Yasha stopped the bus and approached the individual who was experiencing suicidal thoughts. Operator Yasha immediately requested that nearby vehicles slow down and then convinced the man to come on board the bus to keep him safe. He contacted our special constable unit for assistance. When they arrived, the special constables and Ottawa police boarded the bus and spoke with the individual. He was subsequently transported to the hospital and received further assistance and the medical help that he needed and was supported by. Your compassionate actions ensured the safety of a vulnerable person and helped connect him with the support he needed. Just want to say thank you, sir. Job well done. Appreciate that. Let's say Operator Claude. Operator Claude, if you'd step forward, please. Thank you. Now, Operator Claude was recognized for an incredible milestone, 42 years of safe driving. Amazing. It really is a testament to Operator Claude's ability to exercise commendable care and the utmost dedication to safety. And I'm so pleased to personally congratulate him on the milestone today. 44 years of service overall, I understand. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Claude's been an operator since 1982 and is proud to say how much he enjoys his work and interaction with the public. His colleagues say he's dedicated, compassionate, and professional, and I'm very proud to be standing here today with Operator Claude. So with that, I want to thank you as well, sir. Job well done. Sergeant Josh, if you'd step forward, please. Now, this year's Chief Safety Officer Award was presented to Sergeant Josh and Sergeant Daniel for their efforts during a medical emergency. Unfortunately, Sergeant Daniel was unable to join us here at Transit Committee today. I'm grateful for his dedication to public service and would like to extend my congratulations to him as well. While overseeing public safety and security operations at Primsey Station on Canada Day, Sergeant Josh and Sergeant Daniel were alerted to a medical emergency in a private vehicle at the nearby Albert and Booth Street intersection. They immediately responded, providing life-saving medical assistance. Thanks to their specialized training in medical first responders, they stabilized the patient and transferred care to Ottawa Paramedic Services. This incident demonstrates the pivotal role special constables play on our transit system and the broader community by responding heroically in a moment's notice. Sergeant Josh, I just want to say thank you to you as well, and job well done. Thank you. I'll now ask if I could ask Troy Charter and Sabrina to join us up front, as well as the chair and the rest of the committee, if we could take a picture together to celebrate this moment. I appreciate that. I'm going to sit back down.
All right, thank you. This is Transit Committee meeting number 26 for May 14th, 2026. Il est important de souligner que la ville d'Ottawa se trouve sur un territoire non cédé.
Ottawa is built on unceded Anishinaabe-Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe-Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia.
Today is on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people who lived and continue to live on this land. We recognize and honor the valuable contributions of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We have no regrets today. I'll ask the committee coordinator to do the roll call.
Councillor Tierney.
Present.
Councillor Menard.
Here.
Councillor Lowe. Councillor Leeper.
Good morning.
Councillor Hill.
Present.
Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor Brockington.
Here.
Vice Chair DeRoche.
Here.
Chair Gower.
Here.
You have quorum, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we will go through the agenda and see if there's any items that we can carry and which items we'll hold. Are there any declarations of interest today? I'm seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes from April 9th. Is that carried? Carried. Thank you. We have a response to an inquiry, number of conventional buses that have caught fire. Any requests to hold that?
I just have one question on that.
So Councillor Carr would like to lift that as with committee's consent. Can we lift that item? We'll come back to that. Thank you, Councillor Item number 5.1 is our OC Transpo update on rail, bus, and para-transpo, which we will hold for a presentation, and we have 3 delegations on that one. Item 6.1 is the annual update for Transit Services 5-year roadmap. Does the committee want that one held? Or can we carry that one? Actually, we just have to receive that one. We don't even have to carry it. Received for 6.1, thank you. 6.2 is compensation for transit users. We have delegations on that, so we'll hold that item, and there are 4 delegations. And item 7.1 is the status update, Transit Committee inquiries and motions. Is that report received? Received? Okay, thank you. So if we go back in order, the first item that we held was 4.1, the inquiry. Councillor Carr? Your question? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have 2 questions. I just want to clarify that a thermal event doesn't necessarily mean a fire. Does it mean overheating as well? Or were all these thermal events fire? And my second question is whether we've had any thermal events and or fires on the electric buses.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, you're correct, Councillor, that the thermal events doesn't always mean fire. It can mean just black smoke. That's why it's called thermal event and not fire. And Remy can correct me if I'm wrong, but no, I am not aware of any thermal events on our electric bus fleet.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for providing all of that information. It was useful.
Okay, I am not seeing any other questions on that item. We're good? Thank you. Okay, we'll move to item 5.1, which is the OC Transpo update, rail, bus, and para-transpo. There's a lot in this update. We'll have an update on the status of bus and rail service delivery, a detailed review of the customer first action plan and the key performance indicators. There will also be an opportunity to ask questions of OC Transpo and representatives of Rideau Transit Group and Alstom who have joined us for this meeting. I'll now pass it over to Rick Leary.
Thank you very much, Chair. Before we move on to the presentation, if I could, I'd like to highlight a recent announcement regarding my colleague and new friend, Troy Charter. You may have heard Troy has graciously accepted the role of Associate General Manager of Transit Services. Now, I tell you that Troy is immensely knowledgeable about OC Transpo and its operations. He's been and will continue to be an essential part in moving OC Transpo forward. As we look ahead to an improved and expanded transit network in Ottawa, I'm thrilled to be working closely with Troy in his new role. So I just want to say congratulations to Troy, and now I'll pass the floor on to you. Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Rick. That means a lot to me, so thank you. C'est un plaisir d'être ici pour soutenir Mr. Leary.
It's a pleasure to be here to support Mr. Leary and the rest of the team as the associate director.
And actions that we're actively working on and implementing. It truly is an exciting time. So speaking from my heart, and I know from the rest of the management team, there's nowhere else any of us want to be right now. We really want to see this through, and we're excited about what lies ahead and the actions that we're taking. So it's a great time to be here. Before we get to the next slide, I'd also want to add my congratulations and thanks to all the nominees and award winners that Mr. Leary has highlighted. It is always fantastic to see the level of dedication and pride that our staff have, and to see it highlighted through ceremonies and committee meetings such as this is truly inspiring. You know, myself, over the years, I've benefited from hearing all these stories during my career with OC Transpo, and you know, it's great to really highlight it for other members of the public to show, you know, our commitment to safety and service in the communities that we serve. So I appreciate the time to be able to do that here today. So if we can go to the next slide, that'd be great. So as summer arrives, we want to encourage everyone to take advantage of transit and enjoy the improvements that we've been making. With the summer coming, it also means school is coming to an end. And this year, customers aged 18 and under will have free fares in July and August. This will encourage the newest generations of transit riders and the families raising them to take the bus and train to events, activities, and appointments throughout the city. Come this fall, the youth fair will allow free transit on weekends, public holidays, and weekdays after 5 p.m. So I'd like to thank the committee and council for making those, for giving us those directions. Our goal is to make riding easy for our city's youth, to develop the habit of taking transit wherever, whether they are on their way to study, enjoy live sports, or simply just to hang out with their friends. I'm also very pleased to share that for the Ottawa race weekend, we will again be extending our O train lines 1 and 2 service hours on Sunday to start at 5 a.m. So this means that for fans and participants, they can take transit to all the action without missing a thing. And of course, our OC mascot is ready to race again in the mascot race. So we're hoping that we can retain our title for a second straight year. So we're looking forward to that. Over the coming months, Ottawa residents and visitors will have plenty of events to enjoy. And OC Transpo, we will be ready to support them. Residents will soon be hearing more of our new community visibility team across Ottawa. Wearing high visibility vests and deployed on foot, by bike, and on board transit, this dedicated team of special constables will be engaging with customers and community members throughout the city. While the team is always ready to support the community, its primary focus is to enhance visibility across the transit system, continue to increase the safety for our customers, and assist those who may need help. Earlier this week, team members completed their training and were already at Saint Laurent Station assisting customers. The community visibility team will continue to be present throughout the transit system, rain or shine, as we head into the busy summer festival season, and it will continue beyond. Their presence on buses, trains, and in stations will complement the dedicated work already being done by our team, including our OC Transport supervisors, our operators, and maintenance staff, and countless other personnel who are out on the line every single day. And I'd also like to extend a big thanks to Sabrina Pezin and Chief Zaslowski for listening to the communities that we serve and for implementing this new initiative. So thank you. Next slide, please. Turning to our bus service, over the last few months, we have made steady progress on improving the service for our customers. We've seen a steady increase in the number of available buses for service, and this has corresponded to a decrease in the number of undelivered trips since January by approximately 70%. Our progress continues, and since the spring service change, just under 1% of our scheduled service has gone undelivered, showing strong recent service improvements. We know that these improvements have to continue, but we are well on our way. This progress has been supported by the 111 zero-emission buses that we have on board, focused maintenance activities, including bus refurbishments and dedicated maintenance campaigns. All of this work will continue over the spring and summer months. Increasing the availability of our bus fleet has been a priority, and we're seeing the results due to the hard work and dedication of our maintenance team. An element of this work also means addressing the number of missed trips due to mechanical issues that occur while a bus is in service. This proactive maintenance work is underway as well, and our team is in focus on ensuring that we have the right number of buses available to support all the events in our city this summer, like Canada Day and Blues Fest. Next slide, please. As we continue to improve bus service for customers, our focus will be to deliver the service we advertise to our customers. So, one of the things that, I've heard Rick say many times, advertise what we deliver, deliver what we advertise. And we're going to really adopt that motto in everything we do. To achieve this, we must move towards a more proactive maintenance model. Right now, 49% or approximately 49% of our maintenance team's time is spent on reactive work, and 51% of their time is spent on preventative maintenance. As Mr. Laurier will cover shortly as part of his 10-point action plan, our goal is to be closer to 80% proactive work and 20% of the time spent on reactive work. To do this, we need to shift the approach, shift how we plan, shift how we maintain our vehicles. And I know that under Mr. Alpha Galilee's leadership, this work is progressing. Thank you, Remy. Our focus this summer will be targeted maintenance campaigns that focus our resources on reoccurring challenges of our aging fleet. At the same time, we'll also continue with our work to decommission old buses. This will be done strategically by retiring the oldest and most unreliable buses first, while balancing the onboarding of our zero-emission buses and the new 60-foot buses Council has invested in. All these activities are aligned and being coordinated to help our maintenance operations prepare for the fleet for peak customer demand in September and the harsh winter weather that lays ahead. Next slide, please. Our work to safely restore capacity on Line 1 also continues, and we're making progress for our customers. There are now 28 vehicles that have cartridge-bearing assemblies under 100,000 kilometers. And based on this progress, I'm happy to share that this morning's Line 1 service started with a mixture of single car trains and some double car trains. This means that there's more capacity for customers during the peak periods on line 1, and service continues to operate every 3 to 4 minutes. While this is positive progress, again, we know there's more work to do. And there are 2 key areas that we're focused on with our maintenance partners, Rideau Transit Maintenance and Alstom. First is the cartridge bearing assembly, or CBA, replacements. The supply chain has been strengthened and replacements are continuing. We expect to have 34 trains available by mid-June to support the return of full line 1 capacity. In parallel, we are also making progress on the condition monitoring system on line 1, which is the next step that will allow for the full fleet of vehicles to return to service. As a reminder, the bearing condition monitoring involves the installation of vibration sensors on board trains on the axles. Once installed, these sensors are able to detect abnormal vibrations, offering near real-time assessment, ensuring the continued safe operation of our fleet. Working with RTG and Alstom, we have secured all the necessary vibration sensors for the fleet. A number of them have started to arrive, which will support the validation of the system. Initial calibration exercises have started in the yard, and following a short period of validation, the data will be reviewed and will form the next steps, including the installation of these sensors across the entire fleet. Both work streams, the cartridge bearing assembly replacements and the implementation of the condition monitoring system, will continue throughout the summer, with more and more vehicles being able to be in service. We are on track, and bear with me, no pun intended on that, but we are on track for full line 1 capacity to be ready for customers for the major events, Canada Day, Blues Fest, and any other summer event that's going to be occurring. Ces travaux poursuivront tout au long de l'été.
This work will go on all summer, and we'll have more and more cars available for service. We're on the right track for full capacity of service for Canada Day and other major events.
So before we move on to the next slide, I'll now hand things back over to Mr. Laurier.
Thank you, Troy. Before I move on to the Customer First Action Plan, what I did want to acknowledge is the special guests as well, Chair, if I could. So I am pleased to welcome our colleagues, Grant Bailey, the CEO of Rideau Transit Group, and Noah Hewitt, the Vice President of Services North America at Alstom. In my short time here, I found that there is good collaboration with RTG and Alstom. I know that we all share the same priority to safely restore line 1 capacity and to continue to work together to increase the reliability of line 1. I'll let you know at the end of this presentation, both Noah and Grant will join us at the table to answer some questions. So thank you for that. Now I'll start. I'm going to remind everybody that it really is my honor to be here today before the Transit Committee as the role of General Manager of OC Transpo in our nation's capital. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I'm here today to talk to you about my initial 30-day assessment and the 10 points that will drive change on our transit system. Since joining the City of Ottawa a little over a month ago, I've been using our bus, O-Train system, and have visited our control center and garages to really see them in action. I've spent time listening and speaking to customers, union leaders, employees, and members of council. I've received a lot of feedback, and I tell you, I'm very appreciative of the discussions. I'd let you know that Ottawa has a solid foundation to improve transit. I've said this before, and I truly mean it. The sorts of issues that OC Transpo has experienced are not unique to Ottawa. Transit agencies across North America have faced and overcome similar issues. With that said, what I'd like to do is start off with just some observations that have informed this plan. First, City Council has set the foundation for transit with recent investments in the fleet and customer improvements. By the end of next year, approximately half of our fleet will be modern, zero-emission electric buses, and as Troy has mentioned as well, the 60-foot buses that are coming in. And this will help support, the additional investment helps support the state-of-the-art infrastructure. We've also bought new paratransport vehicles to improve customer comfort and service performance. Recent investments in the transit app, real-time information, and flexible modern payment systems are improving how customers navigate the system and pay fares. And new youth fares Free trips for seniors on Paratranspo and extended afternoon peak period transfers make choosing transit easy for our customers. I'd say these are the cornerstones of good transit in which it can be built on. So the plan that I'll be laying out and setting before you today really is based on this sound investment. My job is to integrate these initiatives with a fresh focus and energy to build a sustainable, reliable service this city needs and deserves. This is what will lead to real improvements residents can see and feel when they use our transit system. So based on my initial 30-day assessment, I'm going to say we, no one does anything themselves, have created OC Transpo's Customer First Action Plan. Now, this plan is grounded in one core principle: improving the customer experience at every step of our transit journey. We want to build the most customer-focused transit service in Canada. Now, this action plan has 4 key areas of focus that will really drive these results. The first being, and we will make service reliable. We will put customers first. We're going to strengthen our financial stability, and we're going to build a sustainable workforce. These areas reflect the clear direction that the city manager has provided me, as well as the feedback that I've received so far and my experience at other transit agencies. Improvements in all of these areas translates into a transit system the city expects and deserves: reliable, predictable, and sustainable. Now, over the next few slides, I'd like to walk you through the 10 action points that I really truly believe will drive change in this plan. The first one is we need to make our service more reliable, the obvious. We must improve the reliability of the O train and bus services and ensure Paratranspo is meeting customer needs. After my initial review, I see all the necessary components being present. We need to better integrate these initiatives to drive real change that customers will see and feel. And as you heard Troy say, we're making good progress, and we've started to introduce some double car trains in service just this morning. And this is only part of the ramp up to the normal capacity on Line 1 that we expect by mid-June. So in short, I've observed that the Line 1 is frequent and reliable, but what we don't do enough is talk about how good that service actually is. It comes every 3 or 4 minutes. The reliability is incredible. We should be very proud of what we have in this city, and we're only going to build off that when the double car trains go back into service. We're also looking at increasing the resiliency of the winter weather on Line 1, looking at infrastructure, including the overhead wires, and to improve this performance for next winter. I'll tell you, this will include detailed operational plans for our maintainers and the potential to have additional measures such as heat tracing installed along the sections of the overhead wires that we know have experienced issues or problems in the past winters. Lines 2 and 4 continue to be strong performers, but together these overall measures will enhance the sustainability of the O train. We have good discussions with our Paratranspo customers at the Paratranspo Talks meetings, but I want to build on this to hear from you on how the service can continue to improve to support spontaneity, participation in the community, and quality of life. As part of this plan, we're going to launch a new consultation process to hear from our customers and the public directly on how they would like to see Paratranspo grow. I'd let you know it's very important to me that our Paratranspo customers have a voice in their future plans. In addition, we're assessing opportunities for service improvements like later operating hours and more flexible bookings. And I'll bring back another update with more information on plans and timelines as the teams work through these action plans. Finally, as you know, our bus and our O train network is fully accessible, and we want to continue to provide supports so that anyone who wants to use our system. Now, in my discussions with customers, I've heard repeatedly that bus reliability is crucial to improving the system. I'd let you know that the top 2 2026 complaints that our customers have advised us on through our service teams, what we've received was canceled trips and delayed buses. the obvious. What's what we hear from we're riding the system. We know that buses arrive on time at their stops only 65 to 70% of the time. For customers, that translates to being late at their destination 1/3 of the time. This must improve, and it can improve. Measuring the on-time performance of our buses in this way is only one way that we'll have new key performance indicators that we will be introducing in the coming months, and you'll see many of them in front of you today. You'll see this in the slide that focuses on new, I'm going to say ambitious targets to improve our bus service. In a few moments, I'll speak more about, I'll say, our plan to refresh and implement new KPIs, but I did want to point out that these are the first of several new metrics that will help to shape our future discussions. They demonstrate that bus reliability really is influenced by two factors, two things that we need to focus on: buses that are dependable and schedules that are attainable. And I'd like to take a few moments to walk through how we'll address and align our schedules and maintenance practices with what this will mean to our customers. Firstly, maintaining 20-year-old buses is very, very difficult. We remember that for the future. Our intent is to refocus the way we plan maintenance. You know, as you heard Troy talk about, right now our teams are splitting almost equally on corrective and preventive repairs. This needs to change. The focus will change. We'll move to a model where 80% of it will be preventive maintenance and only 20% will be corrective maintenance. We'll see a difference. By focusing on major preventive maintenance campaigns and extensive midlife refurbishments, we can shift our maintenance programs to focus on sustainability. And this means that buses will require repairs less often. Based on my experience, or I'll give you a little into it, right today, we recognize that about 17% of the buses in service on a daily basis have a challenge staying in service. 17%. And based on my experience in improving maintenance programs, I can tell you that we're going to move this to about 2% because something always happens in service. We have preventive maintenance campaigns planned for the summer that will set up our fleet for increased demand in September and for next year's winter. The work this summer will build in the resiliency into our fleet. And this really is the fundamentals for resetting how we're going to maintain our fleet and really deliver for results. So the path forward for a reliable bus fleet was really clear for us. Over the course of the next year, we're going to focus on putting into service the new zero-emission buses and the new 60-foot buses the city's purchased. We're going to prioritize our maintenance hours on vehicles that will be dependable for our customers. And as Troy said, again, we're going to start retiring the least reliable buses that require the most frequent and extensive repairs. Period. At our next meeting in June, we'll bring forward a fleet plan to talk more in detail about our shift to preventive maintenance, strategic bus retirements, and onboarding of new buses. And I'm confident that in the coming months, we're going to continue to see significant progress. As I mentioned earlier, the second component is adjusting our schedules to reflect real travel times. We want customers to have confidence that the schedules we advertise is the schedule the bus follows. This action also addresses what I've heard from our union leaders and frontline operators. We've begun this work by adding time to schedules of 7 routes to account for real travel times. And our plan is to see more schedules updated by September. And I believe I heard 1/3 of the schedules likely by September. So we're really starting to make that movement. We're going to continue to expedite this work until all necessary routes have been reviewed and updated. And I can tell you, we'll be providing this committee with more information on how scheduling updates will roll out in the future. By bringing together a renewed fleet with a proactive preventive maintenance program plus schedules that represent real travel times, we can build back customers' confidence that OC Transpo buses can get them to their destination on time. So the next area, our focus is really enhancing putting customers first. And I've said that this action plan will put customers first in every service-related decision that OC Transpo makes. Now, to do this, there are 3 key action points: customer safety and experience, communicate reliably, and to measure what matters to customers. These will move us to making customer-focused operational decisions that will deliver results. While we work on service reliability, the other component to a positive experience on vehicles and stations that are clean, comfortable, and safe. The action items on customer safety and experience, focusing on having more employees in the system, increasing cleanliness, and restoring confidence of our riders. Our work here is getting started, and we'll be advancing in a number of these measures as we go forward. Our team is currently giving the entire bus, paratranspo, and O-train system a deep clean for spring to increase customer comfort. I also look forward to the new public safety strategy to bring the new safety strategy to this committee. It will outline a number of initiatives to improve comfort, safety, and security on our system. The strategy includes a number of things, the first being the launch of the Special Constables Community Visibility Team. They'll be on bikes and on foot patrols all downtown. In the coming months, you'll also see employees at Rideau Station as we put in new efforts to revitalize the station with repairs, signage, and cleanliness to align with the city's efforts to renew Byward Market area. And finally, we're going to provide more visibility with our special constables and other employees across the network. We're also committed to ensuring our customers know the progress that we're making. Our commitment is to communicate regularly and effectively with customers as we follow through with our priorities. And we're going to build the most customer-focused service in Canada, and we're going to tell our customers what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and when it is done. And I'm going to repeat that because it's so important for me to make sure people know what we're going to do, when we're doing it, and when it's done. Customers can expect more campaigns about real improvements they will experience during the trip. We'll be reviewing the way we communicate with customers to ensure you have the information you need when you need it. And we'll be having meetings in person to hear more feedback on our service from this action plan. I'm very excited to get out to these town halls with our customers and our employees in the very near future, hear more about their ideas directly and get their feedback. This plan is based off of the feedback of employees and customers to date. Finally, and you've heard this, but we're looking at it a little differently. Data will fuel our decisions. How we manage our operations needs to be driven by the data that reflects the daily experience of our customers. In addition, when we report on our service and our progress, the information we present needs to represent the real experience again of our customers. And I think you've seen some of that as we've mentioned it today and seen on the slides. It's only then that can we have the conversation about transit, ongoing improvements, and continuing to adapt and grow our system that is reflective of the daily user's experience. To fuel this conversation, we're developing new key performance indicators that will guide our discussions and decisions. The targets we set will be ambitious and result in real, tangible improvements in our service delivery for our customers. And by understanding what customer experience daily, we'll be able to adapt and continue to address their needs. Now I'm going to take a moment and start and talk a little bit about strengthening our financial stability. Right, this is also very important for this organization. As I said earlier, Council has made significant investments in transit over the last number of years. Now we need to build a plan to guide our future growth and investments. By uploading the LRT to the province, the city can eliminate $85 million in annual budget pressures, creating capacity to reinvest in transit services, enhancing reliability, frequency, and capacity while strengthening our financial position. And I do look forward to working with the mayor, the city manager, as well as our provincial colleagues to advance this very important work. But another component that will be relatively new to many is the long-term financial viability that we're going to build is based on a 10-year capital investment plan that lays out our future needs. And I look forward to bringing this full plan to a future committee in the new term. Now, this document really will be the fundamentals to make our federal partners aware of our long-term needs. Because I can say what many of us believe, that we can deliver better transit when all levels of government are working together. I'd also let you know that we're leaving no stone unturned to improve our bottom line. The team is working to increase revenues from non-traditional resources like digital advertising and to bring OC Transpo's program in line with other transit leaders. In the coming weeks, we'll be launching an RFP for a new advertising vendor that will help us to quickly and affordably digitalize advertising across our system. We're also pursuing innovative partnerships with major employers and other organizations to design fare packages that can result in additional revenues over the long term. So there's a lot going on, as you can see, at OC Transpo. Finally, to do this, we need to build a sustainable workforce. Our employees keep the entire transit system moving every day, and they are our frontline ambassadors to our customers. And we want to ensure that they are supported, engaged, and empowered so that we are the top transit employer in Canada. Our integrated workforce strategy will accelerate recruitment of frontline positions that directly support service delivery. These are the mechanics, bus and paratransport operators, diesel and electric rail operators, as well as controllers and special constables. We've successfully hired, for instance, 9 mechanics since January, almost half of our target of 20 new mechanics this year to keep our buses running reliably. There's still a lot of work underway. There's a strong recruitment campaign in place to fill these positions, and I'm committed to looking at further enhancements. In transit, what we say is we need to be 2 steps ahead of our hiring process and forecast our future needs. To do this, we're going to be developing long-term plans to support service delivery in the future. We're going to be setting staffing targets as well in advance, plan our recruitment and training programs that will bring new employees to OC Transpo when we need them. I tell you, I'm also quite proud of some of my previous experience expanding an innovative apprenticeship program with local colleges and schools to hire new graduates directly into our maintenance team. I've challenged the OC Transpo team to build resiliency into the training program, to grow an Ottawa-based apprenticeship program that will meet our long-term needs for new, skilled employees that allow for more of our community to access good jobs. As the integrated workforce strategy comes together, we will be bringing more details to this committee as well. So finally, I really am committed to building an engaged and informed workforce. What you've heard today is a result of employee feedback that I've received so far, and I look forward to continuing these discussions. I've also had great conversations so far with the union leaders, as I've mentioned, and I'm going to continue building collaborative relationships. As I said, we want to be Canada's #1 transit employer. Employee feedback can continue to drive that change, and I'll be hosting regular town halls again to hear directly from our employees. And I'm repeating some of this, but it's so important that that message is out there. This action plan captions my observations, discussions, and feedback after my first month at OC Transpo. And I said previously, over the next 60 to 90 days, we're going to continue to dig deeper. I call it peeling the onion, to provide more details on the current state, the path forward, and how we're going to achieve our goals and report back to this committee on that work. So again, I just want to remind people these issues are not unique to Ottawa. I know that this committee and our transit customers have faced several years of service challenges, but we do have a solid plans in place to provide service today and the focus on long-term solutions to bring sustainable and reliability to the future. So I really am excited about OC Transpo's future and realizing its full potential. And I'm also excited, I would say, that the ability to bring my knowledge, experience, and it's a fresh approach in direction to improving transit. That said, I'll leave you with, I think that this council should be very proud of its investments, which has established a foundation for the future. And I'm fortunate to have arrived and be in this position at this time. So I'd say that concludes my presentation, Chair. I'm going to ask Sabrina if she'd take it from here, move on from here, while Francois moves up to the table. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Rick. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président et membres du comité.
Hello to everyone, Mr. Chair and member of committee.
Mr. Leary and Mr. Charter said earlier about safety and say congratulations again to all the recipients of the TransSecure, Safe Driving, and Safety Awards. These recipients demonstrate that safety doesn't end at the door of a bus or a station. It extends into our neighborhoods, onto our streets, and into our community, which is why I'm so proud to see our new Special Constable Community Visibility Team in action already this month. The team represents our continued commitment to public safety, and I'm excited for each and every one of you to see them, interact with them firsthand while using the transit system or at a variety of community events. It was also so special for me to give the inaugural Chief Safety Officer Award to 2 of my sergeants from the Special Constable team this year. A big thank you to Chief Zaslowski and his team for getting this off the ground for our customers. These initiatives, both the Safety Awards, TransSecure, Safe Driving, and our Community Visibility Team, are positively influencing our safety culture each and every day. A strong safety culture doesn't happen by chance. It exists because people choose to uphold it, day after day and decision after decision. Leur action influence leurs collègues.
And this will influence their colleagues, and this also defines standards for our group. Safety, it's not just a question of reacting.
At the next Transit Committee meeting, I'll be proud with Mr. Leary to provide an update on the progress that we've made to date on the next steps for our public safety strategy, which perfectly complements our customer first action plan. And as Mr. Leary mentioned, that will include new key performance indicators, both from the safety side and the service side. Next slide, please. But for today's meeting, I'll walk you through our regular 6 key performance indicators for both safety and security. On the top of this slide, you'll see the overall violation rate for our bus fleet. This graph outlines both the City of Ottawa and the transit internally calculated overall violation rate, which is sitting at 18% and 15% respectively. This is part of our Commercial Vehicles Operator Registration, or our CVOR, which is the measurement used by our regulator on the bus side for the MTO. The overall violation rate, or OVR, is comprised of 3 event categories: collisions, convictions, and inspections. Overall, for transit, we're seeing strong progress in these event categories, and our staff have placed significant emphasis in the last year on lowering our preventable collisions. Since August of last year, the OVR has been steadily decreasing, and as a reminder, the lower the rate, the better it is. Despite the fact that OC Transpo contributes to over 80% of the city fleet total traveled kilometers, our internally calculated OVR is lower than the city's, which demonstrates that OC Transpo is positively influencing the City of Ottawa's overall violation rate. This positive trend can be attributed to several factors, including safety programs and enhancements, ongoing operational monitoring, and additions to our training program, and historical incidents aging out of the calculation period, which really shows us where we are today. The indicator is focused on the next indicator, at the bottom of the slide is focused on our preventable collisions and our infractions. A reminder that the total number of preventable collisions is calculated based on 100,000 kilometers driven. And as noted by the blue line, that's our 12-month rolling average. It's remained relatively consistent and stable. While we're still above our safety management system indicator, we have seen a steady decrease over the last few months in particular, attributed in great part to the number of safety initiatives and enhancements to training that we've put in place. The black line on the graph represents the total number of monthly infractions. So as you can see, in March, we had 4. Since the speeding cameras have been removed, this metric is really showing the red light infractions. Our safety team investigates all preventable collisions and infractions, and we continue to monitor and implement safety measures as required. But some of our ongoing mitigation measures include extensive training and support for our operators, not just during onboarding, but cyclically as well. Targeted follow-up and coaching following incidents, interdepartmental collaboration and communication, route reviews and location reviews when recurring trends or operational risks have been identified. Next slide, please. Sur cette diapositive, nous passerons en revue
Here we
les
want to
indicateurs
actually show
des
you
clients et des employés.
the
At the
injuries
top of the slide,
reported.
the overall rate is determined based on the number of customer trips per 1 million trips. Sorry, customer injuries, per 1 million trips. Overall, we're still well below our safety management indicator, and year-over-year comparison, we're in a much better place in 2026, even though we had a slight increase in March. To date, we have recorded 14 reportable customer injuries, most of which are really typical with transit system risks, such as slips and trips, falls, or incidents involving our buses, including movements of the bus like hard brake applications. All the above mentioned customer injuries are subject to internal reviews from my safety team, and they identify contributing factors and opportunities for prevention and improvement. We continue to implement a wide range of safety measures aimed at reducing the risk across the entire system. This includes ongoing maintenance activities in response to weather conditions, such as salting and sanding, communications campaigns and safety reminders, and defensive driver training on the bus side. Next, at the bottom of the slide, we have a graph focused on the employee injuries, specifically the lost time incidents. A lost time reported injury or illness, a lost time reported event is an injury or illness which occurred and results from the employee missing time away from work beyond the day of the injury. And it's important to note that not all injuries result in lost time. You'll see in this chart that year over year and month to month, we're trending in the right direction. In 2026 to date, we've recorded 53 total lost time employee injuries, and the top 3 categories have remained the same for many, many months. So slip and trip, struck and caught, and harmful environmental stressful events. This represents overall a 33% decrease compared to the same time period last year. Bus operators continue to represent the largest employee group within these reported injuries, which is consistent with their level of operational exposure in their role. We'll continue to focus on proactive safety measures to support our employees and their well-being and reduce workplace injury and risk. This is ongoing, including safety training, hazard awareness, and reinforcement of our safe work practices, as well as targeted, high-focus, frequent injury types. Next slide, please. Finally, I'll end my portion of the KPIs by focusing on public safety and security. So the graph at the top shows our violence against transit employees, or our VATE incidents, which are defined as any act of threat, intimidation, or physical assault against an employee. These range from incidents of verbal abuse, such as inappropriate comments or spitting, all the way to physical injuries and assaults. This is a legislative indicator that we report and discuss at our OC Transpo Policy and Health and Safety Committee. The data has been updated from our last meeting at the Transit Committee to include all of 2024, 2025, and Q1 of this year. As of March, the 12-month rolling average is sitting around 12 compared to last year. Around the same time, it was 17. An analysis of these incidents show a higher occurrences of these incidents occurring either in the evening or late night periods, increased frequency more on the weekdays over the weekends, and a seasonal rise during the colder months. Common incidents include being struck with an object, spitting, or pushing. A wide range of safety measures have been put in place to help support our staff and to support the reduction and prevention of VATE incidents. And this includes our operator protective barriers, or on the rail side, securing the train cab doors, the increase of staff presence and visibility, including of our special constables and the new community visibility team, and internal training and safety communications and initiatives. These combined measures continue to support the prevention and response to incidents of violence against our employees all across the system. And then finally, at the bottom of the slide is our graphic showing violence and ridership in perspective. This shows violent offenses in a rate of per 1 million riders. So when you're looking at the dotted line, that represents the overall 12-month rolling average, and we're still seeing a downward trend, which is great to see. I won't give it all away today, but as part of our public safety strategy, it will include a strong focus on public safety KPIs, and through the feedback from both our staff and our community, we're going to take a holistic approach to improving public safety and the overall customer experience. Cela conclut ma partie de la présentation. Je cède maintenant la parole.
This is the end of my presentation, and will give the floor to my colleague.
Merci beaucoup, Sabrina. We'll start today with our ridership results for both
Nous allons commencer
as well as paratransport service. So starting with bus and O train ridership, for the month of March 2026, ridership was 5.9 million customer trips. This represents a decrease of 10% when compared to the same month in 2025, where it was 6.6 million. For the most recent 12-month period, ending in March 2026, total ridership was 69 million customer trips, 0.9% lower than for the preceding 12-month period and 0.4% higher than for the same period one whole year before. L'achalandage paratransport pour le mois d'avril 2026
For
était de
April
81
2026,
500 voyages,
the
soit une
ridership
augmentation
was
de 8%
80,000
au même
trips,
l'an
so
dernier.
an increase compared to
Pour les 12
last
mois
year.
plus
For the
récents,
past
plus de
12
910
months,
000 voyages ont été effectués.
we had
C'est
almost
0,7% plus que la période
910,000
précédente
trips,
et
so it's
5,6%
0.7% more
Next slide.
than the previous month and 5.2%
Now,
more
starting
than
with our
the
reliability
previous year.
indicators for bus service. Starting with service delivery for our conventional bus service in April 2026, 98.7% of service was delivered as planned. This is 1.4 percentage points higher than for the same month in 2025 when it was 97.3%, and an improvement over January, February, and March 2026. We can also note improvements in service delivery during all time periods of the day. For the 12-month period ending in April 2026, the average service delivery was 97.3%, 2.2% lower than our target of 99.5, and 0.1 percentage points higher than for the previous 12-month period. Next slide, please. Here, as always, we provide a few additional details regarding bus service delivery. In April 2026, 98.7% of bus service was delivered as planned, as shown in the large green column on the left. The chart in the middle of the page here provides a breakdown of the general reasons that service was not delivered, with mechanical breakdowns, operator availability, and on-street adjustments being the most frequent reasons. On the right of the page, we see the 3 routes which had the most undelivered trips in the month of April, and they were in order: Route 12, Route 6, and Route 7. Next slide, please. Now for our measures of on-time performance, starting with bus regularity, the measure used for our more frequent service operating every 15 minutes or more frequently. Overall, regularity was 85% in April 2026. That's 4 percentage points higher than for the same month a year before, where it was 81. We can also see the progressive improvements over the winter from January through to April. Looking at the top of the page, the 12-month average regularity for the period ending in April 2026 was 82%, 3% lower than our target of 85%, and the same as the previous month. Next slide, please. Now looking at punctuality, our measure of on-time performance for our less frequent service, it was 74% in April 2026, 1% lower than April 2025. The 12-month average punctuality for the period ending in April was 70%, 15% lower than our target, and the same as the previous month. And during this same period, trips were early 14% of the time and late 16% of the time. Next slide, please. Paratransport on-time performance for April 2026 was at 95% overall, and this is a measure of how many of customers being picked up within their 30-minute window. This is 1% higher than for the same period in 2025, and the 12-month rolling average for paratransport on-time performance was 94%, the same as the previous month. Next slide, please. We'll now move on to O-Train reliability, starting with O-Train Line 1. When considering the frequency of service provided, and this is the dark red line on the chart on the right here, service reliability for the month of April 2026 on Line 1 was 99.7% compared to 99.9% in April 2025, a year earlier. This is, of course, because since late January 2026, weekday service on O-Train Line 1 has been provided at greater frequencies than planned with single-car trains. The dotted red line that you see on the chart here is illustrative of the overall capacity provided, and it corresponds with the measures that you will have seen at previous meetings. The result for April 2026 in terms of capacity was 67.6% of service being provided. Now, for the most recent 12-month period, service reliability has been 98.5%, 1% lower than our target, and the same as the previous month. Next slide, please. Maintenant, on peut voir ici nos résultats les plus récents.
You can see here our most recent result for lines 2 and 4. For lines 2 and 4, in April 2026 specifically, the service delivery was at 97.2% compared to 98.8% for April 2025. For the past 12 months, ending in April 2026, service delivery was 2.3% less than our target and 0.1% lower than the previous month.
This concludes our presentations. We'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move now to our 3 delegations. First delegation today is Ajay Ramachandran. And And Ajay's in the room. Welcome. Just press the button there.
Hello.
Hi.
It's incredibly exciting to see all the new electric buses on the road. There are about 90 buses out every day now, and on the weekend, 1/5 of buses are electric. This is a revolutionary change for our bus fleet. Electric buses are now serving all of the most important routes. But unfortunately, there's a big problem with this because it means the capacity of our bus fleet is now changing significantly. Major bus routes are now running on a growing percentage of lower capacity 40-foot electric buses instead of articulated or double-decker buses. And there has not been any frequency adjustment to account for that. That means overcrowded buses and passengers left stranded on the side of the road when a full bus passes by. At the moment, it seems there is no plan to adjust frequencies to accommodate for this changing makeup of our fleet. Over the next few months, this problem will only grow as we get new electric buses delivered and retire more articulated buses and double-decker buses. This is further complicated by the fact that we still have many trips removed from the schedule since January, and little planning on what capacity of bus should be used for each trip. For example, the frequent Route 85 eastbound has a scheduled 31-minute service gap at 1518. And the bus that serves the trip following the service gap is almost always a 40-foot bus, which means a completely full bus leaving riders along the route stranded. The problem is solvable, but there needs to be a plan to ensure that routes served with lower capacity buses are properly compensated by increasing frequency. Thanks.
Thank you, Ajay. Any questions for Elliott? Councillor Leeper.
Thanks. Just two questions for you. First, that 1/5 of buses on weekends or ZEBs is remarkable. Is that data that you're pulling from the serial number, the bus number?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. That's I share your excitement at that. The other questions with respect to stranded passengers, I absolutely believe you. The number of notes coming into my office about being stranded has diminished a bit recently. Are you relaying anecdotal evidence, or how are you coming up with this as an issue?
Well, personally, this specific 85 trip is something I've tried to take multiple times and have been stranded, but I have not tried it in the last week or so, but I have been stranded multiple times on that specific trip.
Okay, I will ask staff about that. And sorry, I think you said it was the 15-18 trip on the 85 on weekdays?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for your continued good work on behalf of riders.
Thanks.
Councillor Tierney.
Great, thank you. Just curious, whereabouts do you live in the city, just so we can have a good understanding of that before I go back to.
Yeah, I live in Westboro.
In Councillor Leeper's ward?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just making sure. Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing no more questions. Thanks, Ajay, for joining us today. Our second delegation is Alicia Fay. Okay, not seeing Alicia in the room or online. We may come back to Alicia. The third delegation is Noah Weinberg. I don't think Noah's here. And we don't see Noah online. Just do one last call for Alicia or Noah. Okay, we're going to have to move on. So that concludes our delegations. We'll move now for questions for staff. What I'm hoping to do, we have Noah Hewlett from Alstom and Grant Bailey from RTG, and I'll invite them both up to the table at the front. And if we can, we covered a lot, or staff covered a lot in the presentation, but if we could start with any specific questions on LRT, current operations, short-term, longer-term, and then we can come back to other questions after that. Councillor Hill is first up.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I will direct my first questions then that are certainly LRT specific, I think, to Mr. Leary. And should you wish to respond on behalf of OC, you can, or you can push this over to RTG as well. From your presentation today, you indicated we're going to be increasing the capacity on the LRT, essentially starting this morning. There's some double cars out there, and by the middle of June, you're anticipating that the whole thing's going to be back up. is it correct to assume that that increase in capacity is going to be happening under the auspices of the short-term safety paradigm that we're using of 100,000 kilometer restrictions on the existing bogey systems, and that it is not a result of a long-term sustainable solution to the cartridge bearing assembly track rail interface issue?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we're working under the current safety order, which limits all vehicles with CBAs under 100,000 kilometers to be in service. Otherwise, they are not in service at this time.
So from that perspective, I can only assume that we're going to be burning through a lot of these cartridge bearing assemblies. So from a supply chain perspective, is there an indicator of the next 6 months, 18 months, 24 months that we can actually sustain burning through these cartridge bearing assemblies in this manner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and I'll allow Mr. Charter to jump in after me, but at this time, we're working through the action plan to safely restore service, which includes the installation of condition monitoring, at which point we'll be able to do a reassessment and reevaluation of the current safety order on the 100,000 kilometer limit. Troy, if you'd like to speak to the supply chain, feel free to.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and to answer the question, when it comes to that 100,000 kilometer limitation, one of the restrictions that we put in place, one of the things that we require is that condition monitoring aspect to it, and that does allow us to reassess all those the mitigations that are in place, and allows for the return of the full fleet. So that's a big part of the plan moving forward. That's why we're making sure we take the time. We're doing the proper assessments with the implementation of this technology, which is a proven technology. But so that's our next steps. Is we need to look at the 100,000 kilometer restriction, but we need to get the condition monitoring in place. And I know Ms. Pazian spoke about it before. That condition monitoring and monitoring of the CBAs is something that also the TSB has indicated that it's a recommendation or a finding that the city should be looking at. So we're moving forward in that regard too.
So just to be clear, we have adequate stocks of cartridge bearing assemblies, and we are not going to run into a supply chain problem in 6 months, 9 months, 18 months.
At this time, that is correct. And I maybe look to my partners if they want to elaborate on that.
Yes, that's confirmed. We've secured the supply chain to support the replacement program as laid out in agreement with RTG and the city.
Okay, thank you very much. And to get to the long-term sustainable solution to the current spalling shelling issue, how is progress on that going from a design perspective? And I guess that's specific to RTG.
Thank you for the question. So we continue to work on the axle redesign, which has been shared with the city, and the work is ongoing with that. We'll move to a prototype development phase later. The current situation is well managed with the existing planned monitoring devices.
And with regard to the bearing failures, has the original manufacturer of those bearings weighed in on technical concerns or comments on the spalling shelling issue? And if so, has that information been shared with OC Transpo or with the public?
Yes, the original bearing manufacturer has been engaged, as well as other independent experts, as part of the detailed root cause analysis that is currently ongoing. All information is being shared between Alstom, RTG, and all the representatives of the city. And as soon as that information is available, we'll obviously leave that to the city to disclose and make available.
So we have a short-term solution that's leveraging the existing supply chain for the cartridge bearing assembly modifications every 100,000 kilometers. And it is RTG and OC Transpo's assessment that that is an adequate process that will get us through until we have a sustainable solution that will look like either a bogey redesign or another manufacturer or a bearing change or something to that effect, a sustainable solution.
Mr. Chair, if I could jump in first, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Just to reiterate, the intent with the implementation of the condition monitoring system would be allow us to reassess the 100,000 kilometer restriction and be able to lift that. That's our goal. And then that, obviously gives a lot more flexibility with the supply chain. But we're going to go through all the checks and balances and work with our partners on that to make sure that whatever changes we make to our containment mitigation measures, they're properly validated and supported. But yeah, at this time, we'll be working with the current cartridge bearing assemblies. We don't foresee a supply chain issue with that. But removing that 100,000 kilometer restriction, frees up a lot of flexibility, and it extends the life of the bearings to something more sustainable long term.
So the monitoring system is going to allow for that bridge to the sustainable solution. But at present, we have a system that does not currently address the excess lateral loads on that wheel bearing assembly. Do we have a solution to that problem?
Mr. Chair, we have a number of mitigations and containment measures that are in place that have proven to be effective, and they will continue.
Okay, that's all for now, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Brockington.
So just on LRT, Chair?
Yeah, we'll start with
Okay.
LRT specific.
So last month I asked a number of questions about why we are delaying the opening of the East End extension, and some of the answers were we just don't have capacity, the number of carriages that we need. And I think that once the extension opens, we're putting that many more kilometers on the carriages, which would require greater frequency of changing the CBA components that wear down at a faster rate. Just so I fully understand, I think it's important for the public to be aware as well that when we go to full capacity in June, you are confident that we can maintain that because in the interim, as our interim solution to the wear and tear, we have adequate supply of those components. And that gets us through, per Councillor Hill's questions, at least in the short term. Is that my understanding, that we're able to put full capacity as of next month because all the parts that we need to sustain the system are in place and available?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. Whatever we do moving forward, we're taking that, I use the term cautious approach, but in that respect, it's about, we need to be able to sustain it. The last thing we want to do is add capacity back, add service back, only to remove it later down the road. So no, the 100%, it's about focusing on what can we sustain long term, factoring in, the growth of the system as well too.
So if we have sufficient supply for our components that we need to replace the worn out parts within the system, then why are we delaying the opening of the East End extension? If we have the proper number of carriages, if we have the parts needed to maintain those carriages, what are we waiting for at this point in opening the East End?
Mr. Chair, at this time, we do not have sufficient number of vehicles to be able to open up the East End. And it's twofold. So we need to continue with the cartridge bearing assembly replacements to get those numbers up. We've talked about mid-June having 34 vehicles available for service. We need more than that to do the trial running for the East Extension. But then as well, the condition monitoring allows us to be able to maintain the amount of kilometers on an increased fleet and increased service levels for the entire fleet of vehicles. So we really need those two things to happen. But at this time, we're working towards having the necessary number of vehicles to be able to enable trial running. And, when it comes to, doing these cartridge bearing assembly replacements, moving the vehicles around the yard, it takes time to, you've got 10 bogies, 20 axles per train, and there's, so it takes time to get all this work done and completed, on top of all the other maintenance activities that we want to make sure that we're doing too. So just a lot of activities to get to that point.
But I just want to unpack the comment that we don't have the carriages that we need. We don't physically have the carriages, or we have the carriages in Ottawa and they just aren't at the point yet where they're service ready for passenger service.
We physically have the right number of vehicles, carriages here in Ottawa. The issue is we do not have sufficient number that are under 100,000 kilometers. So the replacements get those vehicles under the 100,000 kilometers, and then the condition monitoring allows us to reassess and potentially remove that 100,000 kilometer restriction. So that is what frees up the number of vehicles that we need for trial running. But we physically have the right number of vehicles. We have more than enough vehicles to do the East Extension, but it's the restriction of the 100,000 kilometer that is limiting that the number that are available for service at this time.
But again, if we have parts on hand, then why is the 100,000 kilometer threshold an issue? If the carriages reaches 100,000 kilometers, you change the parts. We have the parts on hand.
So that is what our partners RTG and Alstom are working on right now, is doing those replacements, and you're seeing the number of vehicles slowly increase, but it takes time to do that work. It's not it's not a half-day process. It takes time to do a vehicle, and some vehicles have multiple axles and multiple bogies that need to be replaced.
So is this the reason why we're still delaying the opening of the East End?
Mr. Chair, at this time, yes, that's we need to increase the number of vehicles available for service to be able to start trial running.
So why are we not able to estimate an opening date? We have the carriages, we have the parts, we know how long the replacement takes. You should be able to map this out and say, by this date, these carriages will be fixed. We've tested them. We're ready to go. Like, I don't understand why we're still not able to commit to a date here.
Through the chair, if I could, I've been having a lot of discussions with our partners and the internal staff, and what I've asked them to do is we're working on a very detailed plan. That's why I had to say earlier, I'll know more for June. As we continue to get the parts and the materials and the staffing and the time frame to actually get it all installed, I'm trying to get the service open, start preparing for trial testing, get to pick a date for when we could open. We're just a little premature in time to be able to give you that right now.
Okay, fair enough. I guess the other main concern that the public has is the first derailment of our trains has been years now, and we're still talking about this issue with no final conclusion as to the cause and the long-term plans, as my colleague had meant. Does RTG or Alstom have any comment to make today about the length of time this investigation is taking and what you foresee as the timeline to have a solution, permanent solution to this problem?
With respect, thank you for the question. With respect to the previous issues, we've been working with Alstom on the redesign, and we've received that redesign. We've shared that with the city, and together we're reviewing that redesign. And the next step would be moving forward to a prototype development.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Tierney.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to say thank you, Rick, and to the team. When I spoke to you a couple days ago and I said, can you come out and see our station in the east? Said, when, with a good accent. And I said, as soon as possible. And you came out yesterday and you got to see firsthand. We had great discussions with people on the platform. They're excited for the East End, obviously. But I also got a lot of reassurances, which I'll be frank with you, I haven't had in previous GMs. I know we're not supposed to be disparaging, but I feel this is a big change, as I've mentioned to you, because you're responsive. I also heard a lot of conversations about the operators. You feel they're a big factor in the success of the service going forward, correct? Oh, you'll want to hit the mic button there.
Through the chair, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's been missing for a while as well, which has been a concern. Also, when it comes to your relationship with other groups, we talked about this as well, to be able to get I don't want to talk about cartridge bearings anymore. I think we've learned far too much about them. I think we want to focus on where we're going. You feel very confident you'll be able to get all the parts in, like I've seen vehicles shipped in, I've seen parts shipped in like I've never seen before. This is based on relationships you have with other organizations, I assume?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, good. And the 60-foot diesels, you're quick to move on that. You want to see those hitting the road as soon as possible. I heard that in a previous discussion that you had. I think that's important. You heard that yesterday, actually. We're on the train and a young man was saying, you even noted the route number, and I know you're going to follow up on it because I asked him if he was on IG, on Instagram, and I posted the photo, so he's going to follow up with me. He was talking about having the articulated buses for those peak period times. You feel pretty confident that we're going to see those 60 foots rolling in at some point, right?
That's correct, sir. Through the chair, that's correct, sir. You know, having spoken with staff, about 17 of those will be in by the end of the year, with the remaining coming in shortly thereafter.
That's good news. And I think that's really critical because, of course, we have to have the extra capacity in the event we're not at the point of determining the root cause. And you're still new in the job and learning the system. But I think you're already starting to identify some things, and you'll want to save some of that up. You mentioned the plan for the East End extension. There's nobody more passionate about the East End extension than myself and my 4 Eastern colleagues and my other colleagues as well, because of course that makes determinations on capacity. So it's good. We're seeing a lot more electric buses finally coming in. We see the 60 foots coming in. I mean, the ship sailed on that. We should have had plan B in the beginning, but it's happening now. For the plan, you said this summer. Do you feel confident you'll be able to, when you come out with that plan for the Eastern extension, it'll be a lot more detailed? You'll take the time, put thought into it, and, you know, we won't sugarcoat it. It could be later on. It could be 6 months. It could be 8 months out. It's just for planning purposes, but you'll feel you'll be able to present a very more accurate than just broad strokes or quarters kind of thing by that point.
Through the chair, that is correct, sir. I need more detail from with our partners here, and they're working on it to get that information to us. So we're taking a staged approach on this. We're not talking about everything. We're getting the service back first. Then we're going to assess when we can do the trial running to look at a date. So you're correct.
Excellent. And I don't know if it's RTG or yourself with the stations and the cleanliness and that. I've noticed it. I've noticed it already. I don't know what's going on, but they're washing stations, they're cleaning things. I've seen people on the platforms. Even this morning I went by. So things are shaking a little bit. Is that a combination of your working effort with RTG, or is this OC Transpo staff that are taking care of the stations? I just want to get some clarity on that.
Through the chair, it's a little bit of all of us working together, having discussions about what's necessary to get ridership back once these vehicles are in. Cleaning these stations as the foundation, power washing the tactile strip to the yellow, nice and yellow again, just to give the customers that sense of comfort, security, knowing we're taking care of the system and we're there.
That's good to hear. Again, there was a question also, and I assume it's best for you. There was a young man that came up with a question about the route. Did you happen to hear that question?
Through the chair, yes, I did, sir.
Yeah, and do you have any response to that? Because I think that's kind of a critical situation if this keeps popping up, but I'm assuming your team is looking into all these.
Absolutely, sir. You know, we know that, like I said during the presentation, 17% of the buses are having a negative impact on the service, right? And we're going to get that down. We're looking at matching capacity to demand, right, as we work to do these schedules. If we get 30% of the schedules revised by September, that's a good start. So we're looking at reliability, and then as we get the reliability, we can adjust capacity.
Yeah, and I think that's a critical part that we all have to focus on is, you know, the 17%, that's a large number. And you've been handed this, and to reduce that, I've made a lot of noise in my neighborhood. I mean, unfortunately, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I you know, as a counselor, is very vocal in my neighborhood. I'm seeing, you know, a lot of the routes being repaired and timings are good, but it should be across all 24 wards. It shouldn't be the squeakiest wheel. Like, mind you, I'm saying this as a very loud advocate, and I'm probably shooting myself in the foot here, but I've been very vocal about this, and that's why it's been corrected in my area. But is this a focus of yours to see consistency across the city?
Absolutely, sir. It has to be consistent across the city.
I enjoy the relationship. Again, I can count on one hand.
You're at time, Councillor. So
that feels very, very quick compared to the previous, but I just want to thank you for the work you've done, and look forward to the continued relationship.
Okay, Councillor DesRoches.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the updates this morning. Welcome to RTG. We're focused on line 1 questions this morning. Nothing is more relevant to line 1 than the Commission of Inquiry. We spent a great deal of work this term of council implementing, following through on those recommendations in the first 2 years of this council. They're important. It's not a book that sits on a shelf. We live it, and we're working hard to do better. There were some recommendations in the Commission of Inquiry that dealt with RTG, specifically around communications, some technical follow-ups, relationships between parties, how best to launch the system and manage the expectations? And can you confirm today that you are committed to those recommendations and that you're living them?
We are committed to, thank you for the question. We are committed to those recommendations, and our focus is on customer service and safety. We have a strong working relationship with our partners, with OC Transpo, with our subcontractors, with Alstom, and we're continuing to focus on improving the service and getting the numbers and the capacity back to where they need to be.
Okay, thank you. Every budget we've had with the City of Ottawa, every Transit Commission meeting has been focused on the fix, and we've been working very hard to relay to the public that we understand the frustration. We understand that we need to do better. I'm encouraged by the words of our GM that we need to do better. We're working on that. We have a plan and we are focused on the fix. And I want to give you that opportunity today to hopefully highlight that you also are focused on the fix and that you will do your best to help us improve what needs to be improved.
Thank you for the question. We regret the impact that the Line 1 users have experienced, and we're focused on the safety and the reliability of the system. We know that together we can always raise the bar, and we'll continue collaborating towards that.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Leeper.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for a great presentation this morning. And thank you very much to the representatives from our partners for being here today as well to take the questions. I think you heard from Councillor Brockington and Councillor Hill, and now from me as well, the unease that we feel with respect to the sustainability of keeping the cars on the rails burning through CBAs. And I just want to be very deliberate and make sure that I understand how this is going to roll out. The fix, as Councillor DesRoches has talked about, is a redesigned cartridge bearing assembly that can handle the lateral forces that are arising from the configuration of the tracks. It sounds like we have a design, which is great. I think we heard that at the last Transit Commission, and that's really encouraging. That's going to have to be prototyped, tested, then manufactured in some scale, implemented, and that's going to be a multi-year process. I think if I read between the lines, what I'm hearing this morning is that the 100,000 kilometer schedule for replacing the CBAs strikes me as unsustainable unless we can address the 100,000 K limit through the condition monitoring. Would that be, is it accurate to say that this solution is not sustainable without the condition monitoring resulting in a relaxation of that 100,000 kilometer replacement schedule?
Mr. Chair, hard to give a definitive answer to that, but a critical path forward is the condition monitoring. Correct. That puts a huge strain on the maintenance activities, a huge strain on Alstom's and RTM's ability to get the fleet out there. So yeah, that is a significant portion. And as I mentioned before, it's also one of the things that the TSB highlighted is that condition monitors should be something the city is exploring and putting forward. So condition monitoring, the vibration monitoring that we're going to be implementing is a key piece to the sustainability of the solution moving forward while we work with our partners. I'm sorry, I don't want to say wait, while we work with our partners on the redesign.
If that condition monitoring, what is the indication we have that the successful implementation of condition monitoring will lead to a relaxation of that 100K replacement schedule?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we're going to ensure that the condition monitoring is verified and validated, and we'll conduct a risk assessment to ensure that it's ready to go. And once that testing has been completed, we can reassess the conditions that led us to implement the 100K in the first place. So whether that's a phased approach, whether it can be relaxed or lifted entirely, we'll do that once the condition monitoring is in place on the fleet.
Okay, and I believe Alstom has already asserted that even, without even more validation, that this is going to be the solution that will allow us to relax that 100K replacement schedule.
Maybe I'll start and pass it to my colleague, but it is the city's condition. The 100,000 kilometer limit is a safety order issued by the city. So I'll allow my colleague from Alstom to comment.
Thank
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, that's correct. We're working in concert with RTG in the city to ensure that we comply with the 100,000 kilometer limit and implement the condition monitoring as quickly as is possible.
Okay. And I think it's your assertion that it will work. You've implemented condition monitoring in other situations as well.
We have other condition monitoring systems in multiple different locations throughout the globe. It's in all types of applications, high-speed rail, light rail, metro systems. Condition monitoring is a very common tool that we utilize to maintain and monitor the health of the fleet.
Okay. How many CBAs or what has Alstom done to ensure a big stock of CBAs? Have you placed additional orders with your subs?
That's correct. Once we identified what a clear path forward is with RTG in the city, additional materials have been ordered to secure the supply chain so that we have sufficient materials on hand. We also appreciate the efforts of the city to work with other partners to secure other materials from sister agencies such as Metrolinx, where we have common equipment. So those pieces of equipment are sitting in our inventory and available for use should we need them.
Okay. Can you tell me how many?
Off the top of my head, I believe there are just over 300 plus units, but I'd have to confirm and I'd like to come back and validate that with the committee if that's okay.
Okay. And so that sounds like if the condition monitoring is validated, that would be a plenty sufficient supply to get us through until the final implementation is done. Will the newly redesigned cartridge bearing assembly, when it is manufactured, will that be a one-off for OLRT, or will that be used by other agencies as well? And if it is a one-off, what kind of numbers can we expect Alstom to order to ensure that we always have a sufficient supply on hand?
I'd just like to state so that at this current point in time, as we're still finishing the design phase, entering into the prototype phase, I cannot comment on applicability in other systems, unfortunately, at this point in time. I would like to just add that it is not solely based on the cartridge bearing assembly itself, but it is an all-encompassing design effort that we're looking to prototype.
Okay. Thank you for that. Mr. Laurier, when double car trains are put back into service, you're proposing to keep the same frequency as today. Can you tell me for how long?
Through the chair, what we're looking right now is getting back to the capacity of the 13 double car trains, which is about a 5+ minute headway. We're assessing the ability going forward to maybe increase that to 14 or 15 to reduce what we're hearing right now from our customers is they really enjoy that 3.5 or 4 minutes.
Yep.
Right. So what I'm really focusing on between us, and I don't want to give too much away too early.
It's important to me because I did bring the motion. I think it was almost a year ago now, or a summer ago, to restore frequent departures, but it was going to cost, as it was a cost-saving measure. We determined not to do it. I'm just wondering how we're going to pay for that. Is that coming from withheld payments from RTG?
It's just something that we're exploring right now. What I'd like to look at is what we're spending so far this year overall and what the service that we're provided. In the first 6 weeks, I always say 6 weeks of September, but it's a 6-week time frame. When we know everybody's back from the summer holidays, is usually the heaviest ridership for us in transit. So I always try to focus on what I can do in that short period of time to make sure that we have plenty of capacity for everyone.
I wonder what the cost of that will be.
Yeah, it's part of the whole assessment I'm doing as I look at the financials within the organization.
Okay. I will come back on to ask questions about buses and other things and let my colleagues ask some train questions. Thank you.
Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate you being here. Just 2 quick questions. With respect to the spalling and the shelling, is this something that's been seen in other cities at all? How common is it? Can you speak to that? And how, if it exists in other places, how they deal with it there?
No problem. Thank you very much for the question. I appreciate it. So the anomaly associated with the spalling is a common anomaly in bearings. We have seen in other bearing applications, regardless of it, whether it be automobile, rail, industrial manufacturing. It's an anomaly that occurs. There are other mitigations that can be put in place. We're utilizing our experts to work with RTG in the city to ensure we have the appropriate containments in place specific to this system based off of the environment that we're seeing. So this is a targeted solution that we're working through. We're confident in what we have right now, and we'll continue to work through our partners to make sure that we get this corrected as quickly as is possible.
Okay, so how is it, when you do see it in other areas, how has it been dealt with on other services?
So application specific is similar containment measures. So through acoustic monitoring, vibration monitoring, additional train riders, early replacements. So similar to the containment methodologies that we have in place, even up to and including other potential redesign. So that is not an uncommon activity. So it's a similar course, but it is system specific because that's usually where we get the original root cause. And I think that's the most important point to emphasize as well, is the root cause activity is still ongoing with the teams right now. And as soon as we have information between RTG and ourselves, we'll make it available to the city.
Okay, yes, the famous root cause. So what is actually the timeline to get those original redesigned wheel assemblies on all vehicles? Is this months? Is it years? And also, I'll just put my second part in through that. Like, what is the risk during that time? Like, is the current configuration sustainable? If you could speak about that as well.
Thank you for the question. And as I mentioned earlier, the redesign package, the drawings themselves has been shared, and we're reviewing that. And then the next step would be moving to the prototype procurement and delivery and testing. The timelines haven't been established to be able to provide them in a lot of detail right now, but it is a process that is going to take some time, if not a couple of years to unfold.
A couple of years, right? Okay.
Yes.
So what are the risks during that time with using the current configuration?
The issue at the moment may or may not be related to the redesign. So we have to determine the root cause analysis and take that into consideration as well. Right now, as my colleague mentioned, that work is ongoing in terms of the root cause analysis.
Okay. Thank you. I know it's ongoing. I just have one last question, but I think it's probably out of order for this discussion. But Councillor Leeper was asking about increasing the frequency, Mr. Laurier, on the LRT. When that's presented to us, will the associated price elasticity also be presented with that? Like, meaning, will it be demonstrated to us if you're increasing the frequency, what the anticipated uptake in ridership would be? Like, will all of that be presented as well?
That's where I've asked the staff to assess, to be honest with you. What I'm looking at is, for that period of time, what we always do in this industry, you always focus on that period of time anyways, to be honest with you. So that's what I'm doing, kind of forecasting out.
Okay, I think my rest of my questions go in the second set, but thank you very much.
Councillor Menard.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the staff presentation and for our RTG and also being here to answer questions as well. I'll stick to the LRT portion here, and then I'll get back on another time for bus and other issues. On January 21st of this year, we had the memo come out that staff talked about a new issue that was identified involving the CBAs. That was a separate issue than the axle bearing assembly issue that had been previously identified. Just so I'm clear, the new CBA model that you're looking to design and construct and install would be a solution to both of those issues, the axle bearing assembly and the new spalling and separate cartridge bearing assembly issue that was identified on January 21st.
Thank you for the question. The root cause analysis is still ongoing, so it's premature to speculate whether the issues are connected. But the intent is that the redesign will be addressing any latent concerns, and will continue to monitor the spalling root cause as we progress with that.
No, I understand the root cause is still being looked at after 7 years now since derailments occurred. But what I'm saying is the design that you're coming up with, the intent is that would solve both the new spalling issue that we were seeing on January 21st that was associated with the memo and the axle bearing assembly. That is the intent, or am I wrong about the intent?
Thank you for the question. The root cause analysis will determine if there's a connection between the previous issue and the spalling issue. And only once we receive that information will we be able to be more definitive on that.
Okay, that's not a great answer. To Alstom, what is your assessment of the derailments that occurred in Ottawa? Was it track related? Was it train related?
At this point in time, I think it'd be premature to add additional comment. I know that my former colleague had made prior comments on specifically on the matter. Right now, our focus is on returning the trains to service with the existing containment measures in place and focusing on the completion of the root cause analysis associated with the bearing spalling.
Yeah, so it's been 7 years that the City of Ottawa and residents have been waiting for a root cause analysis, and it's getting to the point of being completely unacceptable. So when is that root cause analysis supposed to come forward? If it's unrelated to the CBAs, and this is a separate solution we're doing for maintenance procedures, when is the root cause analysis supposed to be released?
Do you want us to start? Or you want to...
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. Just to confirm, in case we mixing up two different issues and two different root cause analysis, the original issue that you're referring to, that root cause analysis was completed. I think the root cause analysis that we're addressing right now or discussing right now is related to the spalling issue. That is the root cause analysis that is still ongoing.
So the original root cause analysis then, related to the derailments, has been determined?
Yes, that has been completed and made available.
And I'm asking both Alstom and RTG in their assessment, what was the cause of the derailments in Ottawa?
Maybe if I can jump in here and maybe Grant can elaborate, but with regards to the original derailment, the first derailment was as a result of, the root cause analysis determined it was a result of the excessive lateral loads on the cartridge bearing assembly, which caused that premature failure. The second derailment, that was a result of, I'll just say a work quality issue in terms of the work to replace the cartridge bearing assemblies to do that work wasn't properly carried out. And, RTG and Alstom did a great job in terms of rectifying those issues with regards to their maintenance practices. But back to the original question, the root cause for the original fretting issue, if you recall that term that was used at the time, was a result of excessive lateral loads on that component of the vehicle.
And the excessive lateral loads on the component of the vehicle is fixed by tracks being replaced or train enhancements? It's a combination of factors. Ultimately from the city's perspective, and this is what we've been working with RTG and Alstom on is the redesign. But other factors have already been put in place. We've talked about the topper rail lubrication, the flange lubrication, adjustments to the restraining rail. All those things factor into the building more robustness back into the train and the cartridge bearing assembly until such time as a redesign is ready to be implemented. The hope is the redesign of the CBAs will take care of most, if not all, of those issues. Mr. Chair, I mean, there's likely that, that infrastructure that's been added to the system will continue. Whether or not it does need to continue, that will be determined through that testing when we have that prototype. But, right now focus is on, the spalling issue and getting that spalling issue and looking at that 100,000 kilometer restriction, getting that reassessed so that we can return the fleet. And then as well, the axle redesign. But we have good mitigations and containment measures in place that allow for the continued safe operation of the fleet. And, if we weren't confident in that regard, we would be having a different conversation. But we're very confident in the measures that have been taken and then the measures that are planning moving forward. Okay. Who is paying for the CBA design and eventual potential implementation? And same question around the axle bearing assembly.
Chair, we're now moving in towards commercial issues here, and I would remind committee members that this would be appropriate more in camera and other briefings that we've had before.
Okay, in terms of who's paying for the redesign? I think that's a pretty pertinent public question. The city's, I guess I'll move on to other questions here. To RTG, has the province had any discussions with you about uploading the LRT?
Thank you for the question. I'm aware of the upcoming plans, but I'm not part of those conversations directly. But we look forward to working together with OC Transpo and any other future partners. So we'll continue cooperating well together and moving forward.
Okay. Okay. And on to city staff, payments have been withheld, as we understand it, since January to RTG as a result of service constraints. Are those payments still being withheld?
Chair, again, Councillor, I just would remind you that, again, these are commercial issues that are ongoing and they're in camera confidential briefings, so just not appropriate for the committee today.
Okay, well, we had that information in January that payments are being held. I'm not asking for the amount, but I'm asking if they're still being withheld or not. We had that publicly out in January, and I'm asking as of today's date, May 14th, if they're still being withheld.
Mr. Chair, I know that there was an update in which an in-camera session was provided, and this was discussed, and I think that answer was provided at that in-camera session.
I don't think that should be in camera, whether payments are being withheld or not. It's public information. It doesn't have to be the amount, but I don't feel like that. We heard in January, so just a simple yes or no would be helpful.
Councillor, I think staff have answered the question. At this point, we'll have to move on.
Okay, well, it's disappointing, Chair.
Sorry, Chair, I think I'm going to challenge that ruling. I think his question is in order.
So a challenge to the chair?
Well, I guess, Chair, I'm just looking for if we're withholding payments. I'm not looking for the amount. I know the amount fluctuates month to month based on various figures that come in, whether we're meeting those or not. I'm just asking for the public to know whether or not payments are still being withheld at all as of May 14th. And I think it's such a legitimate question that we also said in January, we confirmed that in public. So it's the same question in public now.
Councillor Menard has asked a question, and staff have indicated that they cannot answer or will not answer. Councillor Leeper has challenged that staff should. What is your challenge exactly?
You are, Councillor Menard has suggested that should be able to be asked, and you agreed. You've disagreed with Councillor Menard that is a question that is posable in public, and I've challenged that ruling. It may still be that staff refused to answer, but I don't think that you should disallow the question.
I guess this is challenging because councillor can ask the question. Staff have not provided an answer that the councillor is satisfied with, and I've asked the councillor to move on to the next question.
Okay. I'll withdraw that challenge.
Yeah, so Chair, I'll just ask one last time because it was why was it able to be public in January then and not now? I don't understand the difference.
Mr. Mayor, I looked at Taffy to provide a little bit more clarity or answer to that, but as I said, we had some detailed conversations of this in camera session, and some information was provided on that. And what I can share is that we're having productive conversations with our partners, but we are leveraging the city's rights under the project agreement.
That's correct, Chair.
My advice to Councillor Menard would be if you have concerns about what is in line for in camera or public, to speak with the clerk's office or the integrity commissioner on that. I think it's a legitimate question, but we're
That's fair.
we're not
Chair,
going to.
that's fair. I'll move on. I don't understand how we could do it in January and not now, but I guess I'll ask that question to clerks. Thanks. I don't mean to disrupt things. Thanks, Chair. I'll move on. You can go ahead to the next speaker.
Any other questions, Councilor Menard?
No, thanks very much.
Okay. There are a few more questions, so we'll go to second round. Again, this is still on LRT rail technical issues. Councilor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. To OC Transpo, you indicated in your comment on the question about the original root cause that it was due to excessive lateral loads. But my question for that would be, what is causing the excessive lateral loads? Is that not the root cause that we want to understand? Is it excessive speeds in the curves? Is it bogies that are not to specification for the speed or curve profile? What precisely is the cause of those excessive lateral loads that are damaging the wheel assembly hubs?
Mr. Chair, you're correct in that we have determined that our partners have determined that the result of the fretting issue that was caused was a result of the excessive lateral loads. And, that's why you see measures are a combination of factors, right? There's work that's been done on the track infrastructure with regards to the restraining rail and the top of rail lubrication. And then there's also measures that are being taken with regards to the vehicle itself, with regards to, the flange lubrication and then ultimately the axle redesign. So it's a combination of factors, and maybe Noah might want to provide a little bit more context to that, but that's why you've heard him talk about, when you look at these containment measures, it's system specific.
Yeah, just to add a quick compliment to that for you. It is all encompassing. So in our overall experience where we've seen other types of situations, this is part of the detailed root cause analysis that is ongoing right now, and we're investigating closely is associated with the spalling items as well. We're looking at the detailed system integration, because there are multiple different components that play a part in this activity. And as we continue to uncover new information and we look forward to the prototyping phase of this new axle redesign, we'll be able to uncover and I think progress a bit more further here.
Okay, thank you. When we talk about the spalling and shelling issue, I've seen mixed reporting on what that actually means. Is that an indicator of long-term fatigue to the bearings, which then causes failure? Or is it a result of instantaneous failure? So I guess, is it like a chicken and an egg issue here? Is the spalling shelling issue an indicator of something that could instantaneously fail, or is it demonstrating that there is a gradual failure? And the reason I ask the question is I am concerned that if this is in fact an instantaneous failure issue that the bearings could submit to, then will in fact the technical monitoring system that's being installed have a value if it's actually instantaneous and not a gradual fatigue issue?
So specific to the spalling question at hand, it is generally associated with a fatigue type failure. The monitoring systems and the containment that we have put in place collectively with our partners here, we believe is more than sufficient to ensure the safe operations of the trains. The root cause analysis to the spalling activity is still ongoing at present. Once we have a positive conclusion on that, we'll obviously share with our partners and ensure we have all of the appropriate measures moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And I will follow that up with OC. I am under the impression that there is an instantaneous overstress fracture component to this that I would like clarification to. Can you confirm for me that the bogie systems that are being used presently on the LRT system are IPANAN, I think is the pronunciation, IPANAN. That is
EPONAM is the internal technical term.
EPONAM?
Yep, IPONAM.
Okay. And that EPONAM bogie system is to specification of what is required to operate safely on the existing LRT system?
That's correct.
And was it the EPONAM system that was presented to OC Transpo and to Ottawa City Council as the bogey system that would be the system that's being used on the LRT.
I apologize. I'm just not fully following your question. I apologize.
Was there transparency to OC Transpo and the City of Ottawa that the bogey system that would be used would be the Ipinen bogey system, and that that system was in fact to specification for the requirements of the LRT system?
That is my understanding.
Was there a period or was there an initial briefing to OC Transpo or to the City of Ottawa that indicated a different bogey system, the Exige bogey system, would be used, and that that system in fact had the track record, the previous historical usage in other cities that demonstrated the functionality required for the LRT system?
I'm unaware of any conversations associated with alternate proposals. I would have to defer to others on the matter. I can't comment on that.
My concern would be if there was an awareness at the city that we were using one bogey system that was meeting specifications of all of the requirements needed from a speed, from a curve, from an overall safety perspective, but that in fact the bogey system that we have right now is not in fact the bogey system to specification that we asked for. And so that is my question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, maybe that's something that, if we can take that and get some detailed answers on that back. I'm not aware of any specific questions or comments and conversations in that regard. I know that at the time when the system was achieved substantial completion back in 2019, that it met all the specifications and requirements for a continued safe operation, and it was designed, built, and to be maintained, by RTG and their subcontractors, meeting all the performance specifications. It was a performance-based contract. Ultimately, our partners, they have to meet those performance specifications, and they're held accountable to achieve that. But that's something I can take away and speak with my colleagues in rail construction. But what I can share right now is at the time when substantial completion was achieved, all the requirements were met for continued safe operation of the system.
Okay, I appreciate that, because certainly I want to make sure that the precautions we're taking both in the short term and the sustainable solution we want to get in the long term is based on a bogey system that in fact is safe and effective to use on this system. And I would just highlight the slide that I put up, which is a briefing from RTG to Transit Committee talking about a different bogey system than what we're currently using. And it indicates that it has a track record of success in other cities, which is great, but we don't have that system. I'm going to move to some questions, Mr. Chair, about the overhead catenary system. We've had a number of design-related issues over the last several years as it pertains to arcing, as it pertains to weather-related ice events. My question would be, can RTG explain what they are looking at doing in order to ensure that both the overhead catenary system will be functional as we go forward and safe for use for the transit riders?
Thank you for the question. We're working closely with the city on various mitigations through lessons learned from the recent ice storm, and that includes the installation of a heat trace in a section of OCS where we've had problems in the past. So that work and other lessons learned and actions resulting out of the recent incident will be added to our processes.
Councillor Hill, you have time for one more question.
Thank you. And from a high voltage perspective, can we confirm that we have the staff that are doing the inspections, the maintenance, the fixing of this as need be, that have the proper qualifications, and that the stations where there is high voltage dangers are in fact to specification safe for passengers to be using?
That is correct to my knowledge.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Tierney.
Great. Thank you. Thank you again. And apologies, we have another 5 months of governing ahead of us, and unfortunately it's going to get a little wild in the next few months, so be prepared. Real quick, so when you look at the governance aspect of things, And specifically the number of, I guess we're looking at this right now. The question was asked in regards to, we feel there's probably a short and a long-term solution. And without getting into the specifics of what either could be, I assume we're preparing for two different possible scenarios. But it will depend on what the root cause comes back with. And when it's presented to council, I'm assuming between RTG, OC, all the partners involved, and possibly Metrolinx, not only will the root cause be identified, but the solution would come along with that. Would that be fair?
Thank you for the question. Yes, that would be my understanding, that Alstom will share the root cause with RTG. We'll provide that to OC Transpo, and then it'll be communicated further through them.
Great. And that's kind of where I was going is, I think another councillor was asking, we heard it could be a couple years because, at the end of the day, is there ever going to be a day where we could say that there won't be a major issue? Of course, every system has minor issues. You look at REM, you look at TRI, they all have it, but we're under a greater microscope because we've had so many dramatic failures up to this point. And I feel we finally have the pieces, and Councillor Menard is right in his frustration. I think we've just been living this dream so long, it's a nightmare. So I'm hopeful that when it comes back with whatever the root cause is, there'll be, here's the plan that comes along with it. So it's not just all shock and awe. If it comes down to you have to change alignment, will there be buses that are going to have to be sufficient to get people in and out quickly? Well, and these are just assumptions, but I assume there's a lot of planning taking place for multiple scenarios that could require interruption in track service, but won't jeopardize the customer. I think that's what a lot of people are worried about, because we feel that there will be always minor issues related to whatever the root cause is, but we're hoping that there'll be a full solution, honestly, with the public that will have a plan with it, not just here's the problem, we're done, turn off the train.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could just add a comment to that, 100% agree with you, Councillor. Good operations, we anticipate, we plan, and we put mitigations in place and plan for different scenarios, and that's what we're looking at. I mean, we're confident that things are moving in the right direction, but things can happen. But we've got good plans, working well with our partners. And one thing that I want to highlight, I mean, obviously, in addition to the, we have daily meetings with our colleagues here on day-to-day service delivery. When a major event happens, we have specific debriefs and we get into details and look at what happened, what we could have done better. Was there something missed from a maintenance perspective? How could we have communicated? We do all that, and then going one step further, specific to the axle redesign and the spalling issue right now. I mean, we've got our technical teams are meeting twice a week, and then we're meeting with the senior executives, people that you see here, twice a week as well, to make sure that everything's moving forward as quickly as possible. If there's any roadblocks, how can we unstick it? And it's I know Mr. Laurier mentioned it as well. The relationship is positive, and but we need to get our service back for our customers, full capacity, and we understand that. But we are all aligned on getting that done as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I'm recognizing that now, and I know there'll be brute honesty in the future, and I think the public is willing to take that if we find a real solution to fix this once and for all. So, thank you very much.
Okay, are there any other questions specific to LRT and technical issues? No? Okay. I want to thank Noah Hewlett with Alstom and Grant Bailey from RTG. Thank you for being here. We don't get used to see you often, but it is important that you're here. I know that, well, Troy just talked about alignment. I know you are working collaboratively, hand in hand with OC Transpo. And I know that the mayor has conveyed it behind the scenes, but I also want to convey it on behalf of council and on residents that the absolute criticality and urgency of getting these issues fixed on LRT. I'm concerned about the immediate situation. It's safe, but it's not comfortable for a lot of riders, and there's no room for error when we've seen medical issues, when we've seen things that would normally be a very short technical stoppage It's been chaos in the afternoon commute. I'm concerned about the near-term Canada Day Blues Fest. That does not function without double train sets. And I'm really concerned about September and return to office. We've got to get this right. And I'm concerned about really long-term, just about people choosing transit and having confidence that the system is reliable and they can get to where they need to go. It is absolutely critical for our city. And I know you're working with OC Transpo. I want you to know if there's anything that you need, resources, personnel, council will support that. And I know you have that ongoing dialogue with the general manager, with the associate general manager. We also, as a council, want to do everything we can to make sure that you're properly resourced and we can get the system back to 100% as soon as possible, and a safe and reliable system get back to where we need to be. So thank you for attending today. We do appreciate it. And I hope we see you back here soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can respond, I appreciate being here and sharing some more information with the committee. And again, we are focused on restoring full capacity for June. That is our current focus, and we're on track to do that.
Thank you.
Again, just echoing the same comments. Thank you very much on behalf of our 150 plus employees. We are deeply committed to returning and ensuring the safe and continued operation of this system. This transit is our business, and we want to ensure that it's successful in every community in which we are engaged and operate in. So we have our commitment to support the team here in everything they need to do to continue to accelerate and return to service as per the plan outlined earlier today.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to other questions on the update that was presented. Councillor Leeper.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think the only question I had with respect to the presentation for Mr. Laurier, or probably for Troy, you suggested that fairly imminently time is going to get added into the schedules on 7 different routes. By September, you're hoping to have time added in to 30 routes so that operators have more time to complete their runs. What will that do to frequency?
Mr. Chair, obviously our focus will be trying to maintain the frequency that we have today, but, we'll be making some of those decisions and looking at that in terms of what it means. And, there's some routes in which there is sufficient capacity in which we could make some adjustments, and other routes in which we know that they're at capacity or exceeding capacity where we can't. So that's all part of the evaluation, the process. What we really want to do is make sure that the routes that we're focusing on right now, we can implement. And but we know that, to look at every single route, it's over, as I said, it's a little over 100 routes. Take some time to do that, but our focus is getting that done this year. And we'll be having those conversations with you with regards to, what it means for the service for our customers.
Okay, I just, the math is the math. So, but do I have that right? There are 7 routes where fairly imminently more time will be added in?
I'm just looking at a list here, Chair. 7 routes that were implemented with a spring booking that Joel and the team are monitoring through the TOCC right now, and the results are positive. It's still early stages, but are positive. We've got another route that we'll be doing in the summer, and then another, I'll just say 20 some odd routes that we're planning for the fall service change in September.
Okay. I don't want to get deep into the weeds. I think you normally schedule according to what's called a P85. So that the routes have enough time that 85% of the trips will be within the anticipated time frame. Is there a risk that when you add more time into the schedule that buses will be arriving too early if conditions are different?
Moving forward, there's a couple shifts that we need to make within the organization, and you've heard Mr. Leary talk about what we really want to focus on is making sure that 95% of our buses can start the route on time, and it all flows from there, right? If we can get the buses starting on time, the other aspects can be managed and controlled and fixed. But it's getting those buses started on time. Now that's complex. You've got the interlining, you've got the time it takes to get from one route to another, all that sort of stuff that needs to be assessed and factored. But getting the bus starting on time is the first step. And then our control center through Joel and his team, that they're the ones the control center and our on-street supervisors, they're the ones managing and monitoring the service. Now there's been an education piece there with our staff. We've been unfortunately so focused on managing cancellations that we're now at that point with the improving service and the lower number of impacted trips, that group can now start focus on, managing the service, managing the headway, managing the quality of the service. So there's a learning opportunity there because it's been years. Our customers have gone through it for years. So is staff in our control room. So that's a lot of focus that Joel and his team are taking right now is getting back to some of our core basics, which is getting those buses to start on time and then managing the headway. So that would deal with your aspects of potentially buses running early. Get the time right. Get the cancellations to a manageable number, or zero would be ideal. But that quality of the service that falls on the responsibility of Joel and the mobile supervisors in the control center, and that's their focus moving forward on this.
Okay. And I'm sorry, the second question was with respect to the crowding. Audrey talked about seeing crowding as a result of not running our ticks on some of those routes. What has OC Transpo been seeing?
Mr. Chair, I mean, we know that right now, like when you have cancellations, you have more people waiting at stations, right, for buses. So the capacity issues are a combination of things. I'm not going to say that there's not certain routes in which we need to look at, putting a high capacity bus, or maybe there's a frequency issue. But what our customers have been experiencing a lot right now is late buses and trips undelivered. Right. So rectify those two issues, then you really get a nub is where do you need to redistribute high capacity to address those issues? So if you've got a route that's supposed to be running every 15 minutes and you have a missed trip, it's 30 minutes in between. And then, we've got potentially double the number of customers waiting for that one bus, and then it just compounds throughout.
But I think what he was describing was a planned 30-minute gap between runs, and then trying to serve that run with a lower capacity bus. And you either have to bring the frequency back or you have to get a higher capacity bus on that run. And I'm wondering what the solution is.
So, that's one of the reasons why we have quarterly service changes, is to be able to make adjustments where we see capacity issues. And, and that's something that needs to be factored into when we're looking at, frequency and run times and those adjustments, where there's those capacity challenges, and, how can it be addressed through a higher capacity bus or potentially increased frequency?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Brockington.
Thanks, Chair. City Council has been very clear that this is the committee that oversees OC Transpo. At mid-year, we amalgamated the LRT subcommittee into this committee, and every month we meet to have these discussions and then provide oversight. Why was a press conference held earlier this week to unveil the action plan when it should have been unveiled here first and then have your press conference following?
Through the chair, when I've been out doing my tours and having discussions with employees and the public, people ask me, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" They're pushing real hard, and I promised them that I'd be out there much more often than they'd ever seen anybody before. And one of the things having discussions with the city manager was, I'd like to get out and make sure that I set the foundation before coming to the transportation committee, and she supported me on that.
So I'm sorry, getting out and speaking with the public is different than holding a press conference. I don't understand your answer.
No, my intention would be more visible, more public, do more media. It's part of that whole communications, that section that I was talking about in the action plan, speaking more positively about this organization, about the commitments that the city and this committee has made. And I want to get out there and get that positive. There's a culture change happening at this organization, and I'd like to see the public see that, feel that, and be more positive about OC Transpo, recognizing what I see coming down the pike.
I think we would all agree with that statement. I think for such an important action plan, my opinion is you would present it to the actual body that oversees OC Transpo. You can still be as public and engaging going forward, but I would like to see big plans first and not be overstepped as the body that oversees OC Transpo. When you talk about revising metrics and the data that is presented, do you plan to speak to members of the committee with respect to what metrics we would like to see? I've asked for changes multiple times. They're not made. in the charts that were presented. I'm not sure why that's the case. I have to go back again and ask for more information that once again is not presented in these tables. What is your plan to speak with members of this committee on what we would like to see going forward?
So we'll be setting up meetings with committee members. But what I think you saw today was just a small number of KPIs that you haven't seen before. You might have heard of them, but we're going to give a lot more focus because what I look at them is these are the KPIs that actually are very close to what the impact of the customer is experiencing. When we talk about mean distance between failure, we have buses that are breaking down 4 times in between a general maintenance practice. You know, Troy talked about the 50-50 preventive versus corrective. We have to get, and I wanted to introduce to you where I think we can go in some of these. You know, the 17% of vehicles breaking down. You know, the concept of, and you saw it, 65 to 70% of the time, buses are starting at the end location on time. You know, we talk about reliability in a broader perspective, an older KPI. And when I peel the onion, and you know, I'll bring these to you all individually, but I'd love to hear what you have to say, because what my intention is going to be is look throughout the city, as Councilor Tierney mentioned, right, and identify the reliability of every route throughout the city, right, and what we're doing on every route throughout the city as we go forward, and how we communicate that with you as we make these changes.
Thank you. I'll make a closing comment in a second, but just some basic questions this month. So, Mr. Chard, I heard you say you talked about bus decommissioning, and I just want to clarify, is it based on age, status, or state of the bus, or a mixture of both of those two criteria?
Mr. Chair, it's a mixture of both of those two. You know, obviously the older buses tend to be more unreliable, but we are looking at the you know, as Mr. Leary just mentioned right here, the buses that are breaking down, you know, 4 times between maintenance cycles, puts a lot of strain on the maintenance team and takes away resources to maintaining, you know, the good buses. So it is a combination of those 2 factors.
Okay, very well. The 20 mechanics, 19 or 20 that have been hired already this year, is that a net increase to the total, or just another 19 or 20? And you factor in attrition and retirements?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, what Mr. Leary said earlier was 9 have been hired so far this year, with our goal being 20 for the year, and those 9 are net new.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. Sorry. Okay, so just back to the action plan. I fully endorse it and support it. I think it needed to be said, and I agree with you, earlier rather than later, because it sets the stage for what the public can expect and what we can expect and how we can hold you accountable going forward. And it's refreshing, but it needed to be done a long time ago, but that's that. What frustrates me is I have seen on my tenure on the Transit Committee motions that either I or my colleagues have written that we should never have had to write to begin with. That it should have been an automatic expectation that your team would be aware of those challenges that exist and would take action. And I'll just give you a couple quick answer or examples to go through that I've seen over the time. So before COVID, we had a call center where whether people were booking an OC Transpo booking or just calling for customer service, where 2 hours was peak wait times. And it took this committee to get involved, to put more staffing in place, to see a drastic drop in the amount of time people were waiting to book paratranspo. It should not have required the intervention of this committee, but this committee had to intervene. When it comes to bus reliability, I've been very vocal and engaged on this matter, as have other colleagues, but asking staff to demonstrate how budgets show investments in bus reliability, show us the roadmap or the plan. Again, we shouldn't have to be begging for this information. It should be part of what we automatically do. The agenda item every month that has bus, LRT, paratranspo update, the first agenda item every month, your previous predecessor and a previous transit chair fought me on whether or not that should even be an agenda item. Whether or not this committee should be getting updates. A motion had to be presented to get this on our agenda. You would think the people who oversee OC Transpo should be getting the reports. Your reports are excellent, but it's this ongoing And I've got 6 or 7 more items, which I won't go down the list any further, but my expectation of you and your team is when we know there are chronic problems in the organization, you are all skilled enough, educated enough, experienced enough to bring us the solutions, bring us the resources that you need, pitch us your ideas and concerns, seek our engagement, not the other way around. And I'm exhausted from that and our riders from what they've experienced the past decade. So again, strong support for what you've presented today and this week with the action plan. Again, if there are ways that this committee and council can support you with additional resources or other, please let us know. We have your and your team's back. But at the end of the day, as I said in our very brief introductory meeting a month or so ago, people of Ottawa are exhausted and they need stability. We appreciate you being here, and those are my expectations. Thank you.
And you're right at time. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate, Mr. Leary, you've committed to a mid-June return for regular service for Line 1. What is your timeline when residents can expect consistent month-over-month 99.5% bus reliability?
Okay, through the chair. In all honesty, I'm still assessing where we stand with the bus maintenance. There's a lot of work, a lot of good work going on, right? As I mentioned, some of this older fleet, even some of the non-older fleet are in very tough operating conditions. So what I've asked them to do right away is put 50 buses aside, refocus the maintenance staff. I know that Remy is really eager to get the assistance and help. Believes he can do substantially better by the end of the year when it comes to reliability, based on some of the retirees. But I'll have to get back to you, sir, because I haven't. After 30-something days on the job, we're still digging into that and peeling that onion.
No, I understand that and I appreciate that. And I look forward to hearing more on that because certainly bus reliability, that is the Achilles heel, certainly that I hear from folks in Barrhaven. I specifically want to highlight the concerns coming out of Tunney's pasture on afternoon peak. I talk about this pretty much every transit committee meeting, but I just want to make sure that it's underscored to you the importance of reliability weekday afternoon on peak getting out of Tunney's pasture, because that is the place where buses accordion up, you get 4 of them go at the same time, and then there's a gap for 25 minutes. So I just want to make sure that that's high on your radar of things that we need to get addressed.
Through the chair, that is top priority for us. We actually met earlier this week and started talking about where we could place buses so the more unreliable ones are out and back into the garage so the better, more reliable vehicles can be out longer. As you know, we've met at Tunney, take Tunney myself, the 11 bus coming back every day to go home. It's top on all of our agendas.
And there was a good question raised by one of the delegates earlier with regard to the changing bus form. So when we're replacing a double-decker bus with an electric bus, how is that playing into your bus scheduling so that we make sure that as infrequently as possible, we're leaving folks behind?
That's correct. So what we're doing is really focusing on the reliability of the system. You know, if we're scheduling a bus every 15 minutes, it's 4 buses an hour, but the public knows when they're not arriving every 15 minutes. It's 3 buses an hour. So what we're trying to do is refocus the reliability as we assess the capacity needs at the same time. Where do we need to get another bus, or can we reallocate another bus? So that's all part of the Service Planning Department's review of these assessments of the routes.
No, that's good. And I appreciated your comments earlier about hiring maintainers, your program that you have achieved and the program that you are planning to achieve. Could you speak quickly to the impacts that you have right now? Is that being felt? Where do you think this is going to get us? Because I know that's a limiting factor from a fleet perspective.
You know, one of the issues that we've had in this industry is we like to move to get the fleet in because it's exciting, we get new fleet, but the focus on long-term maintainability with making sure we have the appropriate number of maintainers, the trained maintainers, getting the infrastructure and the charging stations in. What we're really doing now is focusing and integrating the whole plan together. I'm really pleased with the way Remy's managing this right now, but my focus is to bring that all together to make sure that we get as many new vehicles on the street as possible. And one of the things we're talking about is expanding the apprenticeship program. I like to build in resiliency and maintenance. You never know when someone's going to retire or leave, right? You can never be down. It's one of those areas I like to program hire at about 105%, right? So you always have people maintain to the highest level, because as we've seen, when you don't have maintainers maintaining your fleet, you could lose a fleet quickly.
No, thank you. And you've made a commitment to transparency. I think we've seen that through your 30-day 10-point plan. We've seen that through your invitation to RTG to join us today. And I think that's an extremely important piece, because that's something that I think the public are very keen on seeing an improvement on going forward, and you're starting that process. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Menard.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to Mr. Leary for I guess the new direction and some of the pieces around the 10-point plan. Appreciate the commitment around communication as well. I was reading through the 10-point plan and was happy to see a lot of items in there. One item that I want to focus on, though, is around ridership and growing ridership. That wasn't one of the areas in there, though I know some of those things contribute to it, of course. But I would like to see more of a focus on how we grow the ridership. What are the specific elements that we need to do to grow? What are the factors? And from an OC Transpo lens, obviously. Things like service frequency is a huge one, right? How frequent are the buses? Can you just go out your door and know that bus is going to be frequent enough that you can get on it, that it might be faster for you for taking that trip? Obviously, reliability is a big piece of it. Fare elasticity, the fare price is another. And then we've got a lot of external factors right now too. Things like high gas prices are causing people to reconsider their choices and how they're getting around. Parking availability, rideshare fees, how much they're charged here, for example, where they go to. Those are all factors that affect ridership, in my view. And I think we need a focused strategy around ridership specifically. And so I'm hoping that beyond the 10-point plan, ridership becomes a major element of in increasing that ridership, not just serving the existing customer base, but growing it. I just wonder your thoughts on that.
Through the chair, you're actually absolutely right. There are other elements that could have been incorporated into this plan, for instance, fair policy strategies. But what I've really done is I've focused on what I've heard from the public, our employees, from the city manager directly when I was brought in, is focused there. I'm one that truly believes that reliability is the core of everything you do when it comes to ridership. I'm out in the system and I talk to people about how they don't take it as often as they used to because of the reliability. I'm out in the city and people find out who I am and they say, I used to take OC Transpo. It's so unreliable. And so me getting out, building up that, I think we're on the right trajectory to come back and to focus and hammering home the reliability, making sure that we feed you the proper information in your ward about the routes and the reliability of the service in your ward improving. You then message that to your constituents. We message it to our constituents. We'll grow ridership once we get that message out there. And that's why the focus now for me is get in the technical aspects of it, work with the scheduling department, messaging as much as possible to positive, because until we get that done, we won't be able to grow ridership. Once we get that done, people will give us another chance, see how dependable we are, and then become more reliant on public transit.
I can appreciate the focus on reliability, and I want to see that as well. I think, in some circumstances, if a bus only comes once every hour or hour and 15 minutes, even if you're reliable on that 1 hour and 15 minutes, it's not coming enough for somebody to make a different choice potentially. So I know frequency and other things will factor into that too. The frequency is a big piece here and growing that, but I can understand the ridership focus, the reliability focus for sure. And I hope we do more on the ridership to come. The Youth Pass launches on July 1st. I'm extremely excited about this. I just want to, and staff mentioned at the beginning of their presentation, Chair, how are we getting the word out about this? Because I think a lot of people are looking for and thirsty for information on this. And I'm wondering if materials can also be shared with councillors for their newsletters, just so that residents, because it's for residents right across the city in every single ward, 18 and under. Is this something that OC Transpo can share information with councillors for their newsletters to get it out there?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's information we'll definitely get into your hands. It's something that's exciting, and it was a great initiative that was put forward. So we'll make sure that you get information, promotional materials, and I know our team will be putting out, using all our social media channels and information to advertise it. But we'll get information over to all your offices.
Thank you so much. That's really appreciated. I know this is an initiative that is going to increase ridership and be helpful for getting people on the bus and the train. I guess my last point. Actually, I've got two pieces. One is a question. One is some more of a point. But as part of the culture change around here and something that could increase transparency, I'm wondering if Councillor Brockington had touched on some of this, but I'm wondering if the new GM would be open. I know you have to commit to it today, but if you'd be open to ensuring written reports in advance of meetings. We see these for every other committee. We have written reports based on the items on the agenda, and it helps with transparency because the public can see those 10 days in advance of the count of the actual meeting themselves. I know we've had written reports for some things. We definitely get the PowerPoint the day in advance, but I'm hoping you would be open to, even if it's started next term of council, for written reports to come to this committee like every other committee in the city of Ottawa.
Through the chair, I can take that away if I could, Councillor, just to have a discussion with staff, discussion with the city on, what we can do to do better, and I can reach out back to you.
That'd be great. And I think it would go a long way to having those ready to go for the public to see in advance. My last question is just around bus stops and how we treat people that are houseless that might be in a bus stop. I've heard a couple of cases recently that have piqued my interest and concerned me a little bit. What is the protocol if there's someone who is houseless and is in an OC Transpo bus shelter? Is it the same in the shelter as it is in, say, like a transit station? Like how is it treated? Is it treated the same way the protocol exists for our parks, for example, or what's the difference there?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mr. Chair, it is slightly different, and I'm happy to provide some more information on this offline should you wish.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the special constables are normally called to attend and they'll assess the situation. And this is part of Mr. Leary's 10-point customer focused action plan, because while every time our special constables are there to help support our customers and our residents, and they do their best to provide supports and resources to people who are unhoused in our shelters and our stations, we're also trying to make sure that our customers are feeling safe to take transit. And so we're trying to balance both providing resources and support and directing them to shelters in the appropriate places throughout, the process when they're called to attend on scene, while also ensuring the safety of the customers who are using the stations and the shelters who are reporting these concerns and concerning behavior to the Special Constable Unit.
Yeah, and obviously concerning behavior is different than seeking shelter because they don't have a house. But I do wonder if there's some more work to be done with the city's teams and the Salvation Army folks, vans, and the anchor teams and our social services staff in conjunction with transit for how these things are treated and the type of support we can get to people to get to proper shelter.
Maybe just to add to that, Mr. Chair, we are working very closely with our colleagues in social services and as well as Ottawa Public Health and with organizations such as Anchor and the Ottawa Police. So we're working right now. It'll be part of the public safety strategy that myself and Mr. Leary will bring to the Transit Committee next month. But it includes collaboration on addressing some of these issues, including unhoused, mental illness and mental health issues, and the use of drugs in the stations.
It's great to hear you're working closely with them, and I'll look forward to that report next month, Chair. And yeah, if we could just maybe chat offline about it as well, that's always helpful. Thank you very much.
Through the chair, if I could, I'd like to just, I'll put it in this term. I'd like to give a little better answer to the question that posed about ridership growth. Because one of the things in this document is the 10-year capital plan. And the 10-year capital plan is not just a review of asset lifecycle replacement and midlife overhaul. It also includes projected growth for ridership within the city for what buses are necessary. So as we continue to develop the growth plan in the city, we'll tie our plan on the capital side to how many buses are necessary to keep up with the growth in the projected service that's going to be recommended. And then we use that on an annual basis for capital, but we also at the same time will use that as projections for what type of operating budgets we would ask for annually. So it gives the city a better time to forecast its operating needs as well. So we're going to take all of that into consideration as we look at growth in the city and growth in ridership on OC Transport.
Thanks so much, Chair, and I appreciate that clarification. I think if you build it, they will come. Thank you very much.
All right, Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much. I have to say, Mr. Leary, I'm impressed with your enthusiasm and forward-looking plan. So I'm excited about those opportunities ahead of us. Just a quick question. Councillor Menard was asking about ridership, and you talked about how important that is. I will say I think it's a very important time to think about how we can attract more people with the ongoing price of gas as well. We've got a lot of things coming ahead with respect to return to the office and lots of opportunity to really focus on that. I just have a couple questions with respect to, we talked about wanting to have double trains back on track, an ambitious plan, but what's the plan B for Canada Day or Blues Fest if we can't get there? If we can't get to the double trains, how are we going to handle it? I'm an annual Blues Fest holder. I take the bus every day I go there. It's fantastic. Everybody uses it. But what if we don't have that set up?
Through the chair, what I've said to staff and our partners that were sitting here earlier, there is no alternative. We are going to get those vehicles back, and that's the commitment that we're making. Period. End of sentence. I've told them, right? Make sure, and I love the questions about the materials management coming in and making sure the material is here, and they're on board for that. We're running double car trains, and my intent was that where possible, if we can throw an extra train out, that's what we do, because that's the business we're in, is customer service.
Okay, that's great to hear. We're dealing with return to office, which we'll see more of in September at the same time that university schools go back in. We also have to, it's not just about line 1, line 2, line 4. It's also about buses. What's the plan for capacity on the bus network for that?
Through the chair, what I've asked staff to do is take an assessment of, how many buses did we put in service last year, right? With the return to work, what do we need for buses? And we're working very diligently this summer to do a maintenance program. A lot of the hoses, the lines, the clamps, the things that we know are the immediate problem, to make sure buses are more reliable, to get hoping to get a higher number than you've seen recently back out in service. I've asked me, even from a standpoint of, do we do something different, like some of the parking lots that we have? Do we add a bus or two to those to make some express buses? Do we need more express buses on the existing route? Right? Can we put an extra, line 2 train out, line 1 train out? So right now, staff are doing an assessment of that for us, and we'll be talking in the coming week about what we think could be appropriate for September 1st. Again, it goes back to that first 6 weeks of September into October before the Thanksgiving holiday, where we know everybody's back to work.
Okay, thank you very much. It was refreshing to see that the baseball team, the Titans, had a free transit. I think it was offered through their tickets. It was an interesting contrast to being at Tulip Festival, where there was a massive cars parking disaster, nobody really taking transit. What sort of improvements can we make in terms of coordinating better with some of these major festivals? We've got the partnership with Blues Fest with tickets. How can we better get people with major events on the transit?
Jump in.
Part of the 10-point action plan and some of our focus has been, on those partnerships and connecting out. I mean, obviously, we want to be the transportation provider of choice for these events, and we've got some good partnerships already in place. But continuing to expand that and grow that is a focus of the 10-point action plan. We have regular meetings with Ottawa Tourism and how we can better promote and share promotional materials, and when it comes to things like conferences and those types of things, how we can make sure that maybe we can incorporate free transit into those types of things. So, but Mr. Cormier over here, he's got a small team of people, but they're focused on those partnerships. And some of the conversations that we've had here previously about the via rail, fare integration, Ottawa Airport, all those conversations are ongoing. And but one of the places where we're really excited about is working with Ottawa Tourism and really trying to promote more in terms of the events and partnerships and incorporating free transit or transit into the ticket prices for ticketed events. But for non-ticket events, how can we better coordinate? But lots of conversations going on, and it's incorporated in the 10-point action plan.
Yeah, perfect. I'd love to see more on that. Another thing that was in the 10-point action plan was a comment about paratranspo spontaneity. So what does that refer to exactly? Are you looking to improve the percentage of fit-ins that we do? Are you looking to perhaps have same-day booking, which we know people want? But can you explain what paratranspo spontaneity means?
Absolutely. One of the things I haven't talked to folks, not just in Ottawa, but in my other previous transit systems, I would say, is the fact that they're required to book 24, so 48, 72 hours in advance. Something happens that day, it becomes something very difficult to get a ride. So I understand that. And they talk about same-day booking. I also look at the opportunity, and I think I mentioned it, about the whole system is integrated now for accessibility, right? It just gives everybody the opportunity, if you want to take the existing system and have that freedom and spontaneity. And those are something we want to have discussions with everybody about and see what we can do better.
Kate, thanks very much. I'll just note that members of Jason Ashton's team, Tiago and Simon, came to a retirement residence in my ward recently, and then I saw them again at the Accessibility Adapt Expo on the weekend with Laura. Fantastic information provided. I actually learned a lot by listening to the paratransport discussion that happened at the retirement home. I had no idea that it was the best time of day to call to book was not at the end of the day or not at the beginning of the day. And when I looked at this 5-point action plan and I saw that our telephone booking line wait times in 2025 for paratransport were up to 22 minutes. That's really important information for customers to know. You've got from 2023 to 2025 on paratransport usage went from 11% to 47%, but our telephone booking line wait times are through the roof. So that needs to change. And I think better communication, reaching those populations is really important. And I do want to give a heads up to the staff that are very responsive to me. I don't know if you want to respond to that at all.
No, it's something that we're looking at. I can tell you, a lot of what we do is encourage the online booking, which is important, but those numbers are very, they can be alarming at times. We know from an industry perspective that you should have within 2 minutes, you should be talking to somebody. We know that. So we're also looking at our staffing as well, the staffing requirements to see what we have. So there's a lot of review that'll be on there.
Yeah, thanks. Because, while we see ridership numbers decreasing, they're increasing on paratransport. They're decreasing on conventional, increasing on paratransport. So we can't lose sight of that. Just had a clarification about community visibility teams. Sabrina, I think it's within your team. Is that community visibility team, they're out at stations, they're just letting people know they're there? And is that extra resources that have been added to the special constables? And where did that funding come from? If so, or if it's just a rebranding?
Thank you for the question. And through you, Mr. Chair, they're not new additions to the Special Constable. It's funded through the province, through the Ottawa-Ontario agreement. So we have redeployed a platoon within the Special Constables that are out in the field. And yes, they are out on foot or on bikes throughout transit network, both on buses and on trains, interacting with the customers.
Buses, trains, stations, tunnels, everything?
Everything, the entire transit network. But we have asked them to focus a little bit more downtown, just given the number of issues that have come up.
Okay, thanks very much. And just, I think it was mentioned that a fleet management plan is coming back in June. Did I get that right? Can you tell me a little bit about what that encompasses? Because when we look at the sort of the decisions that have been made, like, what was it, in 2019, double-decker buses were procured, even though we had there was challenges with double-deckers that had already been founded to have happened, but there was really no other choice because they were high-capacity buses. And we see that, it was this council in 2023 that approved 350 e-buses, but then we had to modify that for the 60-foot buses. And then so we just had to find 50 diesel buses. Like everything has always been kind of ad hoc. We buy what we need. So is this plan really going to outline the right percentage of the fleet by type? Like what is all going to be in there? It's fairly ambitious to have that already by June, considering you've only been here a little bit. I know Troy was working on it previously, but can you just kind of tell me what's going to be in that plan?
Yeah, what we want to do is just be transparent on the fleet that we have today, right? And the reliability of that fleet, the age of the fleet, so everybody's well aware of what we have. I think it's important that as we work projecting forward, is where do we need to identify what we need for overhauls? Be very clear on what's funded and what's not funded, and identify that. Make sure the proper amount of funding is identified, so that you always have a vision of what it takes to maintain a good, healthy, and reliable fleet. For me, that's really critically important. It'll be the capital investment plan that'll do the longer term projections, but I like to have a snapshot in time where we are. I also like to try to establish some type of a procurement program that's just a small procurement, continued procurements, right? Similar fleets, but continued procurement, so you don't get yourself in a place where 25 or 30% of your fleet hits the age around the same time. Right? Program procurements. Now, I'll be honest with you, we all talk about it. It's very difficult to establish because you take the funding when the funding is available to buy your fleets, to upgrade your fleets. But those are the type of things we're going to start introducing to you in June, just to lay it out in front of you so you understand. So when we start talking about the new buses coming in, you'll see that it'll hit you. You'll see the difference. Get rid of these buses, and this is what's coming in. This is the reliability of what we have here. It'll build confidence in you that what you're hearing from us is going to happen.
Okay, thanks very much. I've noticed that you've gone out for a ride on the transit systems with Councillors Hill, DeRoche, and Tierney. Is that invitation open to all members of the transit committee, or do you have to ask a special permission?
Every member of council, my staff will be reaching out, trying to just get these, and I apologize. It's taking me a little time to get 3 in, but I'll be reaching out to all your offices.
No need to apologize. It's often hard for me to find my voice around this committee, that's for sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the OC Transpo team. Appreciate the updates. I'm glad to see we're moving forward on reliability. That's extremely important. I noticed the use of the word customer a lot. That may seem like a great idea, but I just want to make sure that we understand that bus service, our transit system, is a public service. And it fits in with the fact that we have a lot of people going to their cars, etc., and we're trying to get them out of them. So I just want to make sure that that's part of what we're thinking, is that we're trying to make sure that this is a public service. It's a strong alternative in our transportation system. And when I think about that, I'm thinking about National Defense on Moody Drive, where I'm being plagued with people with parking problems and traffic problems because they've got this brand new campus. Now we've got a stage 2 LRT system that goes out to Moody, but it's not going to be ready for minimum 1.5 years. And I'm wondering if we can do something to, think outside the box. They're having problems with parking, but can we improve the transit system there? We do have buses that go there, but can we have a talk with them and improve that as an example?
Through the chair, I'll take both questions. We're going to focus heavily on getting people out of their cars and into our bus network and our vehicle network. I tell you that we want to make a bigger deal about these new buses that we have. Imagine the fuel consumption is pretty much eliminated. We know the emissions is down, right? They're environmentally friendly, they're quieter, all right, and they're a nicer ride, and they're much more reliable than a diesel bus. So we're going to get those messages out, and they look sharp. So that's from the front part of it. To address your second question, absolutely. We actually have a meeting Friday with them, with the city manager, having discussions about what we can do to that community. I believe that, I'm going to get my numbers right. I apologize if I'm wrong, but there's like 5,500 spots and there's 10,000 people that are there. So we have to focus a little bit more on that area, and we'll be coming back to you and having more discussion that Wendy, the city manager, and we have that meeting already. I believe it's 10 o'clock on tomorrow to have that discussion.
Yeah, I appreciate that because we were part of the ones to organize it. So I just wanted to bring that to the forefront that really needs to be addressed. And we need some help from the federal government on that, by the way. And that's reaching out to them because we're taking their employees there. So if we make any increases in services, we should have a conversation about that to make sure that it's being paid for and that it's all about their employees. So appreciate that. The other thing I wanted to raise is the people that rely on OC Transpo, that rely on transit and have no other alternatives. We mustn't forget them. No matter how problematic the service is, they have no other choice. And many of them live in social housing, and you won't hear them speak up as much. There tends to be more voices from people that feel more entitled, or feel that they that are used to speaking up. And I'm wondering if we can work on focus groups to reach out to people to make sure that they're getting the service they deserve. I've already been pushing with OC Transpo to promote the Equipass, for example, because many people still don't know about it, so that those with low incomes can get a better deal in their transit. So just want to know if you'd consider doing that.
Through the chair, both questions, I can tell you from the city manager's perspective, getting funding from the federal government is top of mind on this meeting. So we are going to look for that, getting their assistance. And secondly, absolutely, when we do the outreach, we'll continue to reach out to all those that are that use public transit and those that are transit dependent. I can tell you I have had personal conversations with people in those communities while I'm out on the bus, and hearing from them as well. So our focus is everyone, not exclusive of anyone, to be honest with you.
I appreciate that. I know we're building our ridership, but we can't forget those that have been using it all along and deserve better service. I'm representing a ward that's going to see 7 new stations with stage 2 LRT, and we need to build confidence. I can't go to a meeting without people being very despondent about transit in general. And here they are putting up with the construction and detours and mess of putting in this new system. So it's really important that we make it reliable and welcome. I'm doing my best, but I need OC Transpo to be absolutely reliable so that we can get rid of this negative talk. Thank you.
Okay, I'm seeing no more questions on this item, just to scan around the room. And it does not need to be received. So thank you for the extensive updates. And we will move on to the next item, which is item 6.2, compensation for transit users. We do not have a presentation on this, but we have 4 delegations signed up. First delegation is Ajay Ramachandran. Welcome back, Ajay. And then we have Alicia Fay, Sally Thomas, and John Reddens.
Hello. So the non-fair compensation section of this report is extremely important, and I hope all committee members take a close look at it. This is a list of actions that can be done to directly improve our transit service, along with cost estimates. Council has repeatedly funding could be penalty signals, queue jump lanes, and continuous bus lanes are all costed out in this report as direct ways to fix the reliability of our bus system. And for the train, heat tracing of the overhead catenary system is listed as only costing $2 million, and if properly funded, can be installed as soon as winter. O-train reliability during extreme weather events is something everyone on this committee has said they care very much about, and we now have a report listing a potential solution and cost. I hope all committee members take a close look at this report and consider funding these projects to get our transit system back on track.
Thank you, Ajay. Any questions for a delegation? I'm seeing none. Thanks for joining us today. Our next speaker is Alicia Fay. I don't think Alicia is online. If you are, we will come back to you. Sally Thomas is here. Sally, you're up next. Hi, Sally. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's afternoon now, I think. I'm here, first of all, because I haven't been in quite a while. And I want to remind you all what I look like and remind you all that I still exist and I live down the street now. So I hopefully will be here more often. Also to introduce myself to the new GM. Hopefully you will see me often. I will start by expressing my disappointment in your lack of mention of paratransport during your press conference the other day. Paratransport users, there are thousands of us. Disability community represents about 20% of the population, and less than 20% of your comments were about disability. I want to catch you up. Last year, the year before, we did a paratransport challenge where we invited members of the council on the bus. I'd like to extend that invitation to you, sir. Your predecessor did come on with us, but then did not follow through on anything that she promised. So I would like to revisit some of the needs we still are working towards. Number one, because we've had extensive talk about the LRT in today's discussions, an emergency plan that involves the disability community directly. As far as I know, that still hasn't happened. The LRT has had a number of emergencies, and I am low-key afraid to use the LRT, even though I admit I have, and I do like it, but I'm worried about the next time it fails if I'm on it, or when I am on it. I haven't heard anybody tell me a logical explanation of how they're going to deal with it. The next one on my list is canceling buses when you miss a bus. Right now, if you miss paratransport, if I miss a bus, the rest of my day is canceled. The rest of the bookings for the day are canceled automatically, and I have to fight for them to get back. When you miss a conventional bus, for any reason at all, and even something trivial as I can't find my shoes, you stand there and you wait for another bus. The rest of your day is not ruined or eliminated. So that is number two on my list of things I'd like to see changed. Same day service, the councilor already talked about that, so that is still a thing we're looking for. In Toronto, I used to live in Toronto. I haven't been there in quite a while, but anyways, for probably 20 years now at least, you've been able to book your bus based on pickup or drop off time, and that doesn't seem that difficult to do here. I don't understand why it doesn't get done here. On the conventional side, when you do a trip plan, you can decide what time you want to leave or what time you want to get there, and paratransport doesn't allow for that. Lastly, the notification system. Recently, they started a notification system whereby an automated call, you get a call 15 minutes before your bus comes. The problem I have with it is that the message starts as soon as the phone starts to ring. So if you don't pick it up because you're getting ready to go, you don't get the message and you can't get it back, even if you press, voicemail. So that's one thing that I'd like to know, who approved that, or, what can we do to fix that? That's all for today.
Thank you, Sally.
I will be back eventually.
All right. Are there any questions for Sally? Okay, not seeing any questions. Thank you, Sally, for joining us today. And our final speaker on this item is John Reddens, who is online. Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing, Glenn? First of all, I'd like to welcome the head of the table, Mr. Laurier, and welcome the RTG group for coming to these meetings, and congratulate Alstom on their Go Transit contract. I spent many of a time coming to the Transit Commission and committee meetings when I started using paratransport. I watched month after month the spin. Do I believe in it? When I do believe when Diane Deans was chair. Not once in the last 4 years I haven't seen full disclosure of cost, but the argument of confidentiality. We've seen full disclosure of Lansdowne. Assuming rumors, reports of how much is being argued behind closed doors, the proposal you brought forward is proven transit fares is peanuts compared to what customers have endured in the cover-ups, the train breaking down, and lies. Does this answer the chair of the LRT inquiry said Ottawa deserves better? That's a good question to ask. What happens if the proposal is throwing more money to fix a problem, but the problem of image still exists? My fellow riders on paratransit have been robbed of living a fulfilling life that includes bus only for paratransit after midnight. You talk about safety. I shouldn't, or a para operator shouldn't worry about getting hit by a Uber or Lyft vehicle while we were being loaded at busy intersections. Or a teen texting right beside our vehicle because there's no room to go to load us up. Is parking right beside us and near the ramp, and is texting away and looking at his or her text and pulling away. The paratransport driver had to push my walker back into the bus while a customer had just missed a ramp. I have suggested a joint operation with para and bylaw. It needs an attention. You brought it up. You brought up safety earlier, sir. Let's work on it. One final thing is cleanliness of paratransport buses. One Saturday, I was the first trip of the day on that bus, and there was a piece of crap on the bus. We can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions for John from committee members? Okay, I'm seeing none. Thank you, John, for joining us today as a delegation. And I'll just do one more check for Alicia Fay, who was not here earlier and also not online. Okay. All right, we'll move on. So for questions for staff on the compensation report. Councilor Menard.
Thanks very much, Chair. Not so much a question, but just to say that that there's work ongoing now to bring something to council based on the different options that staff have presented. I think there's some great fair and non-fair options there, and ideally a package is brought with input from councillors, the mayor's office, yourself as chair, so that we can ensure that some of those funds that have been withheld are put back into the system. And just to really appreciate staff's analysis here. I think there's a number of great potential items that should be coming forward very soon in the coming month or two. And so just to stay tuned for that. And if there's input or you want to discuss it, I'd be happy to do that as well. But appreciate staff's work on this to date.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, can we receive this report? Received. Thank you. Okay, we have no in-camera items. Are there any notices of motion? Are there any inquiries? Councilor Carr.
Yes, so I just want to say that this is on behalf of Councillor Plant. Over the last 2 years, May 2024 to 2026, how many times has OC Transfer received a complaint from a customer who was waiting at the bus stop and the bus did not stop to pick the individual up? Please only include complaints where the individual was at a bus stop and not at a bus station, and where the individual was at the bus stop when the bus passed by, as opposed to missing it because they were running or walking towards it.
Okay, any other inquiries? And there's no other business, so we are adjourned until June 11th. Thank you, everyone.